Satellite feed in local status. Clear.
The age of America is upon us. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute.
Would you like to be the President of the United States?
Probably not, but I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country.
Are you or are you not going to run for the presidency?
Our country is in serious trouble. We don't have victories anymore. We used to have victories.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
No, get those lights off. You are fake news. We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business. At the center of this movement is a crucial conviction that a nation exists to serve its citizens. It is my greatest honor and privilege to have been your president.
Would you like to be the President of the United States?
If Donald Trump would have won in 2020, we wouldn't get what we're about to get now.
The golden age of America is upon us.
Hello, America, and welcome to our Blaze TV coverage. We are live in Washington, D.C. We have all of the Blaze players. If you are joining us for the first time, thank you so much. We're going to be taking your questions if you're a Blaze TV subscriber. And we have to join the national radio program here in just a couple of seconds. But let me give you a look at what's happening in the Capitol right now. Everybody is filing in to the Capitol Rotunda. The list is extraordinarily short to be able to get in. Many people, the presidents, have just come in. I have not seen Barack Obama yet, but I hear he's here. But Michelle's no fraud, so I'm not sure she's attending. The one thing you can say about Donald Trump's family is it is the most beautiful family I think I've ever seen. All of his daughters and granddaughters and everybody else, they are just beautiful. They had just came in just a few minutes ago. There's Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. We're going to listen to him speak in the Rotunda. First time this has been done since, when was it, Matthew? 1985?
I think so.
Yeah. 1985. It's usually held outside. Reagan changed it to the other side of the Capitol that we're used to now, but it was on the front entrance of the Capitol, which is very small, and not a lot of people could attend, and Reagan moved it to the other side, and that's what we're used to. They say it's because of cold, but I highly doubt it is because of the temperature outside. Matthew, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the last few days being here, very exciting, but I also highly doubt that the time I've spent here.
Yeah, I mean, people know, it is still technically south of the Mason-Dixon line, but in the winter, you expect things like this in Washington, D.C. And, if you're coming from Florida and you've never seen snow or, heard of a freezing temperature, maybe you'd be surprised. But everybody who's coming up here, we have seen it much colder than it is this weekend. There's Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, who I guess left Doge.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like Doge is in the future, but it sounds like Ohio is in the future.
Really?
Vivek.
Yeah, as governor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's planning on running. I'm bummed we're losing Vivek. Any idea? Well, we'll get into that here in just a second. With Matthew Peterson and Allie Beth Stuckey is with us. The president takes the oath of office here in about an hour. Again, Stu is with us, but I think he's sleeping right now. Oh, there he is. Hi, Stu. Yeah.
It's an exciting day, man. I am tired. I did not get a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
But what I will say is running on both Red Bull and the fuel of an Eagles victory and what's going on here in Washington today, I'm pumped up.
I think once this is over and he's officially safe, I'll feel comfortable once the parade is over and he's back in the limousine, because I can guarantee you he's going to walk part of the parade route today.
The fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. This is the Glenn Beck program.
Hello, America. A simulcast with our national audience on radio, international on internet, and BlazeTV. Our coverage of the inauguration of Donald J. Trump, the second inauguration, this time our 47th president of the United States, and there is a lot happening here in the nation's capital. We will have live coverage for you. This hour, we will simulcast with radio. Next hour, we begin just solely online and also on BlazeTV. We urge you to join us. You get $47 off your one-year subscription. Use the promo code 47 at blazetv.com. We are less than an hour away from ending what has been a long national embarrassment, in my opinion, with Joe Biden. He has last night or early this morning pardoned preemptively everybody who is involved in the January 6th committee, all of the cover-up, all of their staff. I mean, it is what he has done just this morning is a national disgrace. Not sure if he can actually preemptively pardon people, but we'll see. Almost everything that Joe Biden has done, it has got to go through the court system, and it is just to delay. But even if they are pardoned, it doesn't mean they can't testify. And if they won't testify, you can put them in prison for that, as we found out from Joe Biden, who set that standard. More coverage in just a second. We'll tell you everything that's going on, and you will hear him live and uninterrupted on BlazeTV in about an hour, so stand by for that. First, let me tell you about realestateagentsitrust.com, our Glenn Beck program sponsor. When you absolutely positively have to buy or sell a home, sometimes you just got to, and it's not a good time. And you need a real estate agent that you can trust that's on your side. My company is named realestateagentsitrust.com, and it started a long time ago because I was tired of dealing with incompetent real estate agents. And you know what? You know who really was incompetent? Me. I didn't know how to interview. I didn't know what questions to ask to find out if they were qualified. I started working with the 500 best real estate agents in the country, according to the Wall Street Journal, and they taught me an awful lot. And we have now vetted and expanded that pool to about 3,000 real estate agents that we think you can really trust. We may not have one in every area, but we have most of the country. I think it's like 98% of the country is covered now with one of our real estate agents. They don't work for me. We just vet them and hold them to a very high standard and recommend the people in your neighborhood that we feel you should at least interview, talk to, and people that you can trust. Go right now, realestateagentsitrust.com. That's realestateagentsitrust.com. The name says it all. All right. Welcome, Stu. How are you?
I'm really good, Glenn. Great day.
Yeah, excited.
Yeah, I'm excited about this.
Yeah. Over the weekend, I was a little pensive. I was worried about his security, as I have for many months now, and worried about the deep state and the Secret Service and their preparations. We'll get
still worried.
Yeah, still worried, but I just want his hand on the Bible. I think you would have to take out the entire Capitol at this point, but we are apparently not worried about a domestic terrorist as much as we are as an international terrorist. In particular, I think Iran. And the security on top of the vans and what will be the beast. It'll be interesting to see if they've taken one of the three beasts and put the same kind of electronic jammer on the top that you're now seeing on all of the other cars that are following the president, at least beginning over the weekend. They have electronic jamming devices and jamming devices for any kind of drone. But we'll see. We'll see. Matthew Peterson is with us now. Hello, Matthew. How are you?
Great. I'm feeling some of that Saquon Barkley energy that Steve's bringing to us.
Oh, you made me even more happy, Matt. I love it. Saquon 2028. That's where I am right now. That's fine with me.
Okay. All right. Shut up.
Go Bills.
So tell me what you're looking at today, Matthew, that you think is important in this last hour of the Biden administration.
I think for all the talk, for all the consternation on the joy of this day, what people need to take with them is this fact: the difference between 2016 and this moment. And I'm just here to tell you, it is enormous, right? When Donald Trump first walked in and shocked the system, this town was a bubble. It was living in a bubble, and it was so thick that they couldn't imagine what the MAGA agenda was. No one knew what that was. They didn't think it was a coherent thing. And so, in the latter half of that administration, before I came to Blaze, I was working at Claremont, and we had this network of all these really smart constitutionalist conservatives throughout the country, kind of kids who would come and read the books with you for weeks at a time, right? And they were all throughout the administration in these lower jobs, and they were fighting a 3 or 4 part war because they all felt like they understood what Trump was about. They understood what MAGA was about and now Maha, but they were not in power, right? And everyone would look to them, and they'd move up in the administration because they'd say, get that kid in here who understands I don't even understand what he's saying. Like, why is he questioning NATO, right? And they'd all laugh like, he's crazy. And then you'd have someone, some staffer would come in and say, no, I think he's asking a legitimate question. So all the work that went into the time from the last administration until now, all these people who understood that agenda and fought for it, these are principled people. And this weekend, I reconnected with a lot of people on and off record, talking to all these people here in this town now. And let me just tell you, they are ready. Compared to 2016, this is night and day. They are ready to go with an explosion of executive orders. They understand how the system works, and they're ready to go to war. And that we can't discount. It's a world of difference from 2016.
I will tell you, I talked to several people this weekend that were in the administration in 2016 and said it is a world that is very different than when they came in. And I said, how do you mean that? Just from the way the left is reacting, et cetera? And they said, more important than that, Donald Trump was not ready last time. It was confusing. This time, and I'm trying to remember the exact quote, if I can give you an exact quote of somebody who was at a cabinet level last time, said he is, laser focused and absolutely determined this time around. He knows what he's doing. He has a very well thought out plan and is going to be executing that.
Yes, and the people are there to help him do it. And that is just, I mean, he has the will, right? The political will. He doesn't care about, how it looks. He knows what he wants to do. And to do that, you need a lot of names that people, aren't going to be aware of, right? Staffers who really know how things work. And that's what I saw this weekend, is just how many of these people, they keep on popping out of the woodwork, people I've known from the last few years, and you just look at it and say, that's the perfect person for that job. Someone who actually knows the history and cares about the principles. And those people are now ready to go.
So we're here at the American First Policy Institute. That's where we're headquartered. We're right across from the, you see behind me, that's the Kennedy Center. And just to your right, if you're watching on the screen, is the Washington and Lincoln Memorial. You see the Capitol behind us. We are right across the street, right across the river, I should say, from Washington, D.C., and we have been allowed to use their offices. Most people may not have even heard of America First Policy Institute. And once again, the media got it wrong. They said it was all the Heritage Foundation and Agenda 2025 was going to be. And Trump kept saying, that's not who I'm dealing with. I'm not doing that. And he was telling the truth. It's not Agenda 2025 and the Heritage, although I'm sure there's some things that are similar that they may have taken or, will work on. But it's this headquarters where the real power, I think they have 30 people at cabinet level or just below cabinet level that are helping this administration plan and move forward, and quickly.
Yeah, and this is the important thing. Again, there was no agenda, right? People didn't realize what the MAGA agenda was. And in order for a president to come in and have, implement the will of the people, that's you need a lot of people who understand it, just like in a business. They have to understand what the mission is. And what you see with AFPI, what you see with Heritage, all these organizations, what they've done is they kept at it. They learned what that agenda was. They didn't just lie on their laurels. They built a new movement. And that's what's so gratifying about this moment. That movement is real. It's thick. It's full of people who understand it, and those people are ready to go to work.
I think because Donald Trump speaks like a regular human being, he doesn't speak like an intellectual.
Yep.
People dismiss his intellectual prowess. And I have been really impressed over the last 3 years in particular. He has changed a great deal. It's almost as if he went to presidential school. And I don't know if that comes from reflection or he had people around him that were saying, okay, here's where you made the mistakes last time. Who was schooling with him? Do you know any of that background? Who has he surrounded himself, or is it just coming from him?
So in the beginning, right, you had Trump sort of against the world.
Right.
And you had a number of people who, remember, he cycled through all those campaign managers.
Right.
He was sort of scrambling to find the right talent.
Right.
And I think what you see now is a number of talented people in orbit, right, that has revolved around him that stayed the same over time. So you have to give Susie Wiles credit for what she did in this campaign. She's been with him for a long time.
To be reckoned with.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A source of stability and a source of sort of calming strength, I think. And you can have your disagreements with her. Everyone has at one point or another. But she is a force for good and has helped, direct and focus a lot of this energy. You also see, again, a lot of these people who are just, they're not loyal to any one group, right? A lot of the younger people I'm talking about, these staffers, these people who have grown in the ranks over the last 6 to 8 years, they're loyal to Trump, right, and the MAGA agenda because they understand it. But there was no infrastructure for it. And what you see now with AFPI and many other groups is that infrastructure developed around Trump, and that in turn, helped him achieve that agenda and be so ready to go in now. And I think it is a sea change. It is a revolutionary moment of people who want to restore Republican governance in this country. And I think what we can't lose sight of, though, is that this is a transitional day. After this day, it's about implementing that mandate that really the people gave to Donald Trump.
I want to talk to you a little bit about his executive orders. I'm squeamish on executive orders. I don't like them, and one reason why I don't like them is we're not a dictatorship. But the second reason is because they can easily be reversed, just as his agenda was completely reversed, and Joe Biden's agenda is being completely reversed now with these new executive orders. This has got to stop. We have to do legislation, but he's reversing everything that Joe Biden did, and then some. But it's an omnibus package of about 200 executive orders and still more to come today and tomorrow. That's astounding. What message do you think that sends to Washington, D.C.? And I'll get your answer here in just a second. First, let me pause for this network break and tell you about Simply Safe. Imagine leaving every day to go to work and not worrying about somebody who might break into your house, rob you blind. Imagine laying your head down on the pillow every night, not worrying about your family, being, across the country away from your family and not worrying that your kids and your wife are safe at night and you're not there. You can do that with Simply Safe. They offer advanced state-of-the-art home security and 24/7 monitoring plans for about $1 a day. It's an incredible price when you think about it, and with their Live Guard protection and Fast Protect monitoring, Simply Safe can act on an alarm within 5 seconds, even talk to the intruder while they're calling police. And here's what's really important. Alarms go off all the time, and in most cities, police do not react to the first alarm because they just assume that this is a fault in the alarm. Somebody opened a door they shouldn't have, et cetera, et cetera. You now need, in most cities, someone to call after the alarm goes off and say, this is a real alarm, and they need verification of that. Well, Live Guard protection from Simply Safe, that is that verification they're looking for. No long-term contracts, easy to set up. They'll do it for you if you want. There's a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, so you can try it risk-free. It's simplysafe.com/Beck. Claim 50% off a new system with professional monitoring plan, and your first month is free. It's simplysafe.com/Beck. There is no safe like Simply Safe. 10 seconds, station ID. So I am worried about the number of people that have embedded and have been embedded now inside of this administration, deep in hiding the different things that they have done to booby trap and to slow this president down. But the speed of what's going to happen today, what message do you think they're getting, those people who think they're going to survive this time around with Donald Trump? Wait, can you turn him up? Can you hear him?
I mean, what's going to happen is justice is coming, authority, constitutional authority over the administrative state is what we're talking about. And that's where, I think all Americans don't want the executive writing laws. That's what we have Congress for. But the president has executive power over the entire government, right? He should be able to hire and fire. The Constitution gives the president executive authority. With Congress, as we know, it separates out that authority. It says you can only pass laws about these sorts of things. But the president has that executive authority because what will happen today is Trump will take an oath to the Constitution. And by taking that oath, he then is in charge, right, of that entire administrative state. But the problem is we're not talking about the normal bureaucracy and departments. We're talking about a fourth branch of government that has run amok. Yeah. So when he comes out with these executive orders today, it's sending a strong and clear message that Guess what, guys? The president is now going to rein this in, and you will have some authority over you from someone who actually represents the people, because as we know, the entire problem, right? No, this is the great thing about what's happening today. No Republican president has been able to roll this thing back for the last 100 years since, as you point out, Woodrow Wilson and others created it. And now we have the best chance we've seen in a century to start rolling it back. And that starts with a flurry of EOs, of executive orders, where the president says, nope, we're not doing this anymore.
Well, there's no way it's not a fourth branch of government, which is unconstitutional. If it is part of the administrative branch and the president is not in control of it.
Yes.
If the president can't fire people, then he's not actually their employer or boss.
Yes. And if the president is not their employer or boss, then they are the boss of us.
Yes, exactly
and that's
right.
The problem.
Because Congress will say the president can't fire. Well, neither can Congress.
Yeah.
So who do these people work for?
Yes.
You know, they work for the unions and they work for themselves, and they're over the that state becomes more powerful than the other three branches combined.
Yes, and this is something that obviously you've spoken about for years. We're here at this turning point, and that's why we are going to the entire focus of the political division of Blaze News and Blaze News Tonight is going to be focused on this mandate and its implementation, because now we have to hold everyone in government accountable, right, to that mandate that the people have given them. And now we have to follow the only game in town that matters politically, which is not Republican versus Democrat, but whether or not we can restore the promise of Republican government in the 21st century. And that's what I think all of our audience cares about, everyone listening cares about, whether you're Republican, Democrat, these people need to work for you. So how does D.C. work? Is Trump going to be able to rein this in? We got to follow it. We got to explore it. You know how many people who are even, fancy people with elite degrees, they don't understand how this works. No, it's opaque. No one understands who actually rules us because of what we're talking about.
I will tell you, I was talking to some people that were cabinet level yesterday, and then I talked to some people that are going into the administration, and they said 1 minute after the president takes his hand off the Bible, we're sworn in. And I mean, imagine the number of people from justice to urban development to throughout the entire thing, military, the amount of change that comes in a 5-minute period. It's not just one guy; it is thousands of people.
Yes,
and that happens in a 5-minute period today. It is awesome to see the transfer of power like this. Because it's not just a president, it's everybody.
Yes.
All the leadership.
Yes. And now it's a mighty task to implement that agenda throughout all these thousands of people in this bureaucracy.
Yeah. Matthew, thanks so much. And you're going to be sticking around, I believe, and we're going to be talking to you after the president speaks and takes the oath of office. That will be uninterrupted on Blaze TV. You want to join us? Blaze47.com.
This is Glenn Beck.
All right, let me tell you about LifeLock. Big data breaches are happening all the time. The Loan Depot, Evolve Bank and Trust, places that sound like that. Millions of records were stolen, and that means millions of people's data has been compromised. If your information was among that set, you might not even know about it, but that doesn't mean for a second that you couldn't be compromised. You need LifeLock. It's important to understand how identity theft affects all of our lives. LifeLock offers advanced, empowered monitoring of your identity and personal information. It alerts you to cyber criminals trying to use your personal information, tracking hundreds of millions of data points per second to detect and alert you to a wide range of threats. They have professional, dedicated, U.S.-based restoration specialists, so if you do become a victim of identity theft, they can help you manage and fix the situation, and their plans include up to $3 million in coverage. It's easy to protect yourself with LifeLock. Join now. Save up to 40% off your first year with promo code BECK. Call 800-LifeLock, 800-LifeLock, or LifeLock.com, promo code BECK.
We're taking questions exclusively from Blaze TV subscribers right now. Go to blaze47.com, use the code 47 and save $47. All right. Okay, hi.
Hi. Welcome. We're going to do some more Blaze coverage here while the network, the radio network, is in a commercial break.
We're getting, by the way, updated information on the Fauci pardon. Interesting.
Yeah.
We should talk about that coming up.
Yeah,
we have
will.
a date and everything of when it goes back to. Fascinating.
We have some questions coming in from Patricia LeMay. She says, can someone be pardoned even though they have not been criminally charged yet? We're not sure. There's an argument back and forth on this.
There's an argument back and forth. I mean, I tend to believe the pardon power is pretty broad.
I do too.
But there has been a lot of pushback, and the pushback was really widely shared back when Donald Trump was threatening that he might do it. They were talking about, oh, well, Donald Trump, pardon his family members. Remember that whole discussion?
Yes.
So there is a discussion on that. I would see that. I think it's going to get challenged. I think a lot of these are going to get challenged.
I hope it does, because this is a very bad thing to set into motion. That you can be in administration, break the law, or even, appear to break the law, and pardon everybody in advance. That's not good. That means there's absolutely no accountability that is left in our system.
Yeah, and the Fauci pardon is written in a similar fashion to the Hunter Biden pardon.
Okay, we'll get to that here in just a second. Does Glenn think of Trump's picks for cabinet positions? What does he think? And other posts, will they make it through the confirmation process? I think so.
Do you think any of them get stopped?
I think that there's a chance RFK has a hard time going through.
I feel like Democrats are going to be on board with him, so
Yeah.
I think that one will probably get through. The one I actually think, if you had to pick one, might be Tulsi. I think that there's a decent amount of pushback on that one. I think at the end of the day it'll get done, but that one might be the closest call.
Tulsi coming in, by the way, we're watching just one of the classiest first ladies ever walk into the rotunda.
Not even close, Glenn. She's by far the classiest first lady ever.
I mean,
it's almost
Jackie
unfair. It's unfair to Jackie O. Melania is a supermodel. It's unfair.
No, but I don't mean that as class. I think the way she's handled herself, and that's why I say it's arguably because Jackie Kennedy went through things in public that thank God Melania hasn't. But I think Melania would have handled it the same way.
I had read that JFK Jackie watched her husband get shot, and that nothing like that has ever happened with Melania.
Have you seen the movie? Well, we'll get into it later.
It did happen.
No, but
it just happened.
But the brain didn't come out in her lap.
That's very
okay.
Nothing. It's not a knock on Jackie O.
Right.
I just feel
I know.
It's like almost an unfair competition.
What will it take for the nation to shift culturally under this administration? In other words, what must Trump administration do? Culture is not the realm of the president. I think that's a question that should be left up to us. We have to change the culture, and it is left up to a much broader set than the president. However, schools make a huge impact on the culture.
Couldn't you argue, though, that Trump getting elected is the people changing the culture?
Yes,
that is what there's a good.
But there's no levers for him to pull.
Right.
That is
certain
the culture.
laws.
Yeah, that's the culture changing and saying, I want that direction, and the culture changes.
Yeah, I mean, he could do certain things on that, but you're right. Overall, this is a movement of the people.
So, Fly Girl Martin, I'm going to be asking the president this question in the next few days. Will Trump have all the doorknobs reinstalled, the ones that Biden spitefully removed? I've heard that. Were you with me? No, you didn't go to the White House with me. At the end of the White House, I saw these doorknobs. They are absolutely beautiful, and they have the presidential seal on them. And Trump had them specially made for the West Wing. And, there's a list of things that the White House needs, and then the president can pull from that and say, my wife and I, we want to take care of these things, okay? He replaced all of the doorknobs in the White House, and my gosh, they were beautiful. The word is that Biden came in and took all of those doorknobs off the doors. I find that hard to believe, but I've heard it from several different sources that happened. If true, that's just an abomination of pettiness. But he will replace them. He will replace them. And I really want one for our museum because they're just spectacular. I mean, I've been to the White House a few times. I'm walking down a hallway, and my eyes immediately went to the doorknobs. They're that spectacular. I'm walking down the hallway, and I see a closed door, and immediately look, and I stop and looked at them, and I was like, oh my gosh, look at these.
You're like the person who really does read Playboy for the articles.
Yes.
Right? Like that's
yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the knobs, I guess.
Yeah, for the knobs.
So,
check out those knobs.
Look at those knobs. All right, decorum.
Hopefully there's not a lady walking down the hall ready to say,
what? Why are we letting these people in? Blaze TV's coverage begins again just a second. We are expecting the president to walk in. The new vice president, J.D. Vance, is walking in even as we speak. More in a minute. We are live from Washington, D.C. with our live coverage of the inauguration and the swearing-in ceremony of the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, President 45 and now number 47 as well. It is a historic day. The feeling here in Washington, D.C. is a little pins and needles. It has been over the weekend. I think as we get closer to him actually laying his hand on the Bible, that tends to go away. But make no mistake, this is a global target. And the time to strike Washington, D.C., if you wanted to get rid of the right, is right now. It's astonishing how much money and how many faces are here in the crowds. There's about 300 people, I believe, in the rotunda now. If we can take some of that live coverage and go ahead and up the sound, I think the
Honorable Kevin F. McCumber, Mr. John Bessler, Mrs. Kelly Johnson, Mrs. Iris Weinshaw Schumer, and Mrs. Jennifer Scalise.
So they have people coming in now and being announced. It's thrilling and exciting, and there is Donald Trump getting ready to walk in to be sworn in. He is, you can hear him making his way by himself down the hallway with all of the military standing guard and in salute. And he's about to walk in and be announced. She is. Wow, look at how stunning Melania looks as she walks in. She's dressed all in black with just a little white showing around her collar and the beautiful black hat offset with a white band. I mean, she is obviously a model, but she looks like she came out of the pages of Ralph Lauren. So American, so wholesome, and so incredibly beautiful.
Wearing a custom double-breasted navy coat by Adam Lippis and a matching boater by Eric Javits, both American designers, Glenn.
Thank you very much, Stu. I appreciate that.
Do you know those people?
No, I've never heard of them, but they've never heard of me either, so we're even. Standing next to the world's tallest man, her son, Barron, who is about 19 feet tall, and right seemingly almost next to him, but behind him one row is Elon Musk.
The President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States, ranking member of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, the Honorable Deb Fischer, House Democratic Leader, the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries, and Senate Majority Secretary, the Honorable Robert Duncan.
When they say honorable, I mean, I think that's just more of a formality. Now, I would imagine this is Hail to the Chief. So that,
ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, the Honorable Joseph R. Biden Jr., and Vice President of the United States, the Honorable Kamala Devi Harris.
The last times you'll hear those words, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and the first time honorable has been used for either one of them. She looks happy. He doesn't know where he is as they take their place under the dome of the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. It's interesting and weird to see it happening inside the rotunda. And no matter what anybody tells you, that's not because, it's not because it's cold.
You just think it's a security threat, which I'm fine, totally fine with.
Yeah, and I think everybody is, I hope.
Ladies and gentlemen, escorting the Vice President-elect, the Executive Director for the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, Mr. Michael Wagner, Senate Deputy Sergeant-at-Arms and Doorkeeper, Jason Bell, and House Deputy Sergeant-at-Arms, Mr. Sean Keating.
They don't get any music.
There's not doorkeeper music?
No doorkeeper music. J.D. Vance is going to be stepping out with bluegrass.
Here comes the music.
Here he goes.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President-elect of the United States, the Honorable J.D. Vance.
Quite a rise for a guy who grew up in poverty.
Yeah.
To go through, become successful individually in the private sector.
It is truly the American story.
Yeah.
By the way, Steve Baker, our investigative journalist, Blaze Media correspondent, who may be pardoned during this address, is joining us here in Washington, D.C. Hello, Steve. How are you?
Good to be here, actually.
It's a big day for you personally, as well as the country.
It could be. And I have mixed emotions. I have a lot of thoughts about this. We don't know how it's going to come down.
Yeah.
We don't know how many are going to receive pardons.
You nervous?
Yes.
Yeah, I bet
very
you are.
nervous. I'm sleepless for the last several days.
I would imagine, because if it doesn't happen, it's, not good for you.
My
not
judge
good for
hates
us.
me, so yeah.
Yeah, he hates you.
Do you feel like he might do it during
keep
the
the
speech?
sound up, please, and the
It's very likely that he will do it during the speech, but he may just indicate it. I mean, we don't know what the language is going to be like, and it's got to be very specific.
Alan Dershowitz said that if he speaks it, it's done.
Correct. It's law.
Yeah.
If he says it. Now, how he says it is what's got me nervous.
The Staff Director for
Here we
the
go.
Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, Elizabeth Farah. House Sergeant-at-Arms,
Would it be
the
amazing
Honorable
if they
William
announced
P.
me with the
McFarland.
doorkeeper
Senate
when I wasn't
Sergeant-at-Arms
there?
and Doorkeeper,
What would
the
happen?
Honorable
Hold on,
Jennifer
guys, hold
A.
on, I'm coming.
Hemingway.
Doorkeeper
Senate Majority
and
Leader,
Dormouse.
the Honorable John Thune, and the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, House Democratic Leader, the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries, House Majority Leader, the Honorable Steve Scalise.
Did he go out and come back
Speaker
in?
of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Mike Johnson, Senate Democratic Leader, the Honorable Charles E. Schumer, Ranking Member of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, the Honorable Deb Fischer, and Chairwoman of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, the Honorable Amy Klobuchar.
Oh, what a nightmare.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've ruined the word honorable.
Never be used again. It's, of course, a new piece written for the new Emperor of the United States. Just throwing that in for the Democrats who are
Ladies
a bunch
and
of
gentlemen,
crybabies.
The President-elect of the United States, the Honorable Donald John Trump.
What is going through his head right now? Look at that. He leans over to kiss Melania. but the brim of her hat is angled in such a way he couldn't actually get to her cheek.
There's no way to get to that, to kiss someone in that hat.
No, that's not a kissing hat.
You're going in sideways.
Yeah,
You're going
he did, too, and he still couldn't make it.
Do it.
Still couldn't do it. Saying hello to somebody fat.
I thought you said you weren't there. Wow. It's a cool day. That is really amazing to watch.
It really is. By the way, our live coverage on Blaze TV, you can find it at blaze47.com, Blaze47. You join us today, save $47 on your Blaze TV Plus yearly subscription. There people are under the Capitol that were also part of the House and the Senate and other guests.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
In the basement, in the Visitor Center of the Capitol. By the way, our coverage will continue here in just a second, and at the top of the hour, we will lose our simulcast with a national radio audience, but we will stay online and also on Blaze TV, so stay with us. And during the speech, we're not going to be making any remarks. We're going to make sure that you hear every word. I am really excited. If you missed earlier today, I started my podcast with the speech I would like to hear from the president, and we'll see. He, of course, is he's not taking my phone calls currently on speeches, so it's not going to be that speech. But I'm wondering how much of it is going to reflect in his speech today. Hopefully, quite a bit. Who's standing up? Is that Klobuchar? Okay, good time to take a quick break. Let me take a quick break here in just a second. We'll be back in a second. First, let me tell you about the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Yeah. Woo. Jeez, I'm sorry you're going to miss that. Anti-Semitism is alive and well all around the world, and apparently we're not done experiencing the effects of the Holocaust. Here we are again today witnessing the rise of the kind of anti-Semitism we haven't seen really since the 1930s, except in the Middle East. Now, one of the many reasons that I've partnered with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is to send a message to Israel, but also Jews all around the world. We are not the same kind of Christians we were. We are not your fair weather friends. We are going to stand with you this time. January 27th is Holocaust Remembrance Day, and the fellowship is doing their part not only in helping to remember, but providing food, shelter, and safety to Jews in Israel and all around the world, including those remaining Holocaust survivors. Will you please donate? Please help. Help provide food, water, medicine, and other basic necessities to Jewish communities, including the gift of protection. World holds an awful lot of darkness for the Jewish people. Become part of a shining light. Give a gift and show your support to the Jewish people by visiting supportifcj.org. That's one word, supportifcj.org, or call 888-488-IFCJ, 888-488-IFCJ, the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews.
This is Glenn Beck.
Holy crap.
Wow. Within 20 minutes of the president actually taking the oath of office, not even that. Now exactly probably 15 minutes because he takes it at 12:01. Joseph Robinette Biden has done one more string of pardons, and this time everyone down to the grandchildren in his own family.
Incredible. Not the ones he disowned. Poor Navy is still up for
Navy's like, wait, I'm going to jail? I'm 4.
James B. Biden. This is one of the big ones. Jim Biden was one of the ones that I really thought. There's tons of evidence that he's been involved in all sorts of corruption, but Biden has now pardoned him. James Biden, Sarah Jones Biden, Valerie Biden Owens, John T. Owens, Francis W. Biden, full and unconditional pardon. We mentioned Fauci. He's been pardoned as well. By the way, of all crimes going back to January 1st, 2014. So this would not just do the stuff that he did while in office or any of that, but also while
God.
Trump was in office, but also all the way back to all of the research that he's
that he said he wasn't involved in.
Right. It would cover all of that. It seems like that date, though, he's using for almost all of these, January 1st, 2014.
What do you make of that, Steve?
I'll tell you what. The thing that has shocked me the most already today in this round of pardons is the fact he got to one of our principal stories of the last year and a half. He pardoned Officer Harry Dunn today.
I know.
Yeah. That's a Blaze exclusive showing his perjury in trial. What we're trying to get to the bottom of right now is if that includes Michael Byrd, Lieutenant Michael Byrd, now captain, who shot Ashley Babbitt, because although he didn't testify before the House Select Committee in the open hearing, he may have given a transcripted under oath interview, in which case we got to figure out if that applies, the pardon applies there as well. But that's
let me ask you this. If you are pardoned, when you go in to testify, can you re-perjure yourself?
Absolutely. This is what we're going to get them on. We're going to get them in House Committee hearings, and we're going to give them the opportunity to either, because these pardons are only for, they go in reverse.
They don't go forward.
They don't go forward. They can still commit crimes in the future if they perjure themselves yet again. And of course, they're not going to be with Fifth Amendment protection this time.
Yeah,
so
they can't call that because, right?
That's correct.
Unless they perjure themselves, they are protected. They say, yeah, I did those things. I perjured myself back then. They can't call the Fifth because they're not endangering themselves. So the only way they endanger themselves is lying under oath a second time, correct?
That's correct. And we also have an ongoing series that we've just begun outing former General Mark Milley. And of course, he received his pardon as well. This is not going to interdict our stories. We're going to continue going forward with our revelations on his participation in January 6th. That's coming regardless of what's happening here. But I think that we're going to see both Officer Dunn, Officer Special Agent David Lazarus. We're going to see them before House Committee hearings under oath again, and they're going to get another opportunity to hold their hand up in the air, take an oath, and decide whether they want to perjure themselves yet again.
Remarkable. Okay, so Klobuchar has shut her yap. So, to put it politely. So we're going back to the Capitol here in just a second, but we are now 11 minutes away from the President of the United States officially transferring over from Joe Biden to Donald Trump. And what a sigh of relief it will be to have Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. We're just talking about some breaking news that has just happened. Joe Biden has pardoned a lot of people. He pardoned last night rapists, murderers, and actually didn't pardon them fully. He just took them off of death row.
To be clear, his family pardons happened today, not yesterday.
No, I meant the other murderers.
The
other rapists and murderers. His family was pardoned for any kind of past crimes. Just a few minutes ago, it was just released to the press. One of the last things he did before he left the Oval Office is go all the way down and pardon every member of his family, including the grandchildren, except for, I think, Navy was left out of that, too.
Yeah,
so
we can go right after Navy.
We go after Navy.
Incredible. And think about even, this transformational moment is really profound. But, 4 years ago, Trump obviously is not at the inauguration. He doesn't attend it. But separate from that, 4 years ago, almost no one attended it. There was no one there at all. And those who were there were outdoors wearing masks. That was where we were just 4 years ago. It feels like another world, and thank God it does. We've come a long way in a very positive direction. At least that's going to start today.
None of this would have happened. Let's go ahead and put picture-in-picture and bring up the sound just a little bit. Sure. Who is this speaking? I can't.
Envisioned for all of us.
I can't
see. And today, we celebrate not only their decision to do so,
It's a boring speech. As we, nobody of consequence. I mean, it could be the Queen. I don't know, but nobody of consequence. We're all. I think America feels the same way. Let's get to it. I mean, even Donald Trump. You're looking at him, and you know he's not. He's looking at her, but he's not thinking about a word she's saying.
I don't think Trump is typically like a guy that cares all that much about the pomp and circumstance, but this has got to be delectable to him today.
Yeah.
I think he wants every single bit of this today after the past 4 years.
Okay, we're getting a prayer.
And know that I am God, supreme among the nations, supreme on the earth. Let us pray. Remembering General George Washington on his knees at Valley Forge, recalling Abraham Lincoln at his second inaugural, with malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right. Remembering General George Patton's instructions to his soldiers as they began the Battle of the Bulge 8 decades ago. Pray. Pray when fighting. Pray alone. Pray with others. Pray by night. Pray by day. Observing the birthday of the Reverend Martin Luther King, who warned, without God, our efforts turn to ashes. We, blessed citizens of this one nation under God, humbled by our claim that in God we trust, gather indeed this Inauguration Day to pray for our President Donald J. Trump, his family, his advisors, his cabinet, his aspirations, his vice president, for the Lord's blessings upon Joseph Biden, for our men and women in uniform, for each other whose hopes are stoked this new year, this Inauguration Day. We cannot err in relying upon that prayer from the Bible, upon which our president will soon place his hand in oath, as we make our own the supplications of King Solomon for wisdom as he began his governance. God of our fathers, in your wisdom you set man to govern your creatures, to govern in holiness and justice, to render justice with integrity. Give our leader wisdom, for he is your servant, aware of his own weakness and brevity of life. If wisdom which comes not from you be not with him, he shall be held in no esteem. Send wisdom from heaven.
We are
that she may
going to
be
have
with
to break
him,
for a network
that he may
break.
know your
Our
desires.
coverage of the inauguration, which is just literally 6 minutes away, going to be covered at BlazeTV. Blaze47.com is how you can join us. Blaze47. Then coverage tomorrow on radio continues.
Is Glenn Beck.
Today marks a defining moment in American history. This is it. President Trump is set to dismantle the woke establishment and send shockwaves through the deep state. The fight for America's soul enters a new chapter, and the powers that be are hanging on for dear life. Blaze Media won't just report the headlines, we'll expose the stories the mainstream media is desperate to bury. From inside analysis to hard-hitting investigations, we break through the noise and deliver the truth you deserve. So don't just sit on the sidelines. Be a part of America's comeback as Trump's second term ignites a revival of the values that made this nation great.
This is a magnificent victory for the American people. This will truly be the golden age of America.
Right now, you get $47 off an annual subscription at blaze47.com. With code 47, join us today and don't miss a moment of the action. Subscribe now.
Flight attendants, prepare for landing.
Stop, Southwest 2937, stop.
Another close call as a FedEx 767 comes within 100 feet of a Southwest Airlines flight in Austin.
In San Diego. At JFK Airport in New York.
They call them near misses.
Southwest aboard.
They're near collisions.
We're traveling thousands of miles across the country to figure out what's happening with air traffic control.
It's the ultimate mind game. All these airplanes moving in different places.
We are sitting here claiming to be the best. It's just so bizarrely untrue.
I've read that they still utilize floppy disks.
Yep. How can this be in the 21st century?
What is the answer to that, Bob? This is insanity.
Half of the controllers in the country are working 6-day weeks, 10-hour days.
We stopped. We were cleared to cross runway 4.
The Obama administration put in place this new set of hiring standards for air traffic controllers.
The FAA decided that it was producing too many white men to become air traffic controllers. They decided to change the hiring process and introduce a new first step, which was called the biographical questionnaire. And it was designed to alter the racial makeup of the potential hiring pool.
So you take the technical test, you get 100%. Then you take the biographical test. How do you do on that?
So I ended up failing. Andrew was a victim of bigotry.
I mean, how is this legal?
It's not.
The warning signs are there, and we all wonder, is anybody listening?
We did it. We elected Donald Trump as president of the United States. A blowout of epic proportions. This is like Reagan-type electoral college numbers. We played a role in giving Donald Trump a mandate for what kind of campaign we wanted him to run. Good prevailed last night over evil. We should drop to our knees and praise the Lord for this victory.
Where do you stand on the WEF, the World Economic Forum?
It's a billionaires' boys club as arranging the world to shift wealth upward and to clamp down totalitarian controls on everybody else.
We're seeing the highest levels of anxiety, depression, loneliness, suicidality since they started keeping records for that sort of thing.
I'm an American citizen. I have not committed a crime. I can speak to anyone I want. I can have any opinion I want. And you're not allowed to use your creepy spy agencies against me because I'm your boss.
Welcome to the live coverage for Blaze TV. It is J.D. Vance now. Let's bring up the audio. He's taking the oath of office.
And domestic.
That I will bear true faith.
That I will bear true faith.
And allegiance to the same.
And allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation.
Without any mental reservation.
Or purpose of evasion.
Or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
The duties of the office.
The duties of the office.
On which I am about to enter.
On which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Vice President.
Look at how serious Donald Trump, not even a smile, just folk, there is a little bit maybe of a smile. He's just so focused on what is coming next. By the way, Allie Beth Stuckey, look at that.
Look at Allie Beth Stuckey?
No, Allie Beth Stuckey is joining us now. Hi, Allie.
Hi, Allie.
Hi.
Just watching the facial expressions of the president, or the president the man who will be our president once again, in just a couple of minutes. Allie, when did you get into town?
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
No, day before yesterday, a couple days ago.
Your first inaugural balls or anything like that?
Yes, whole experience has been new and fun.
Here we go.
Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Joe Biden is standing there, probably wanting to sniff the hair of any of the Trump girls. Now the 21 gun salute, the cannons that are just on the side of the Capitol. They sound a little weenie here on the internet and television, but they are not. The president is now just speaking to those around him. J.D. Vance, his son, Melania just looks beautiful. Joe Biden is still standing there like he doesn't even know where he is. And the president is about to give his speech. Notice Barron Trump politely came over and shook the hands of President Biden and also Kamala. Raised the right way. His children, one thing you can say about his children is Donald Trump's children love him and are very successful as just being children in their own right. This is the fanfare opening of the presidential march. Or is this? Oh, this is the Battle Hymn of the Republic. These people standing in the aisle, and what appears to be the Navy chorus coming down and just plowing into these people who are standing just like they are not. We will move you. This must be, while it would have been nice to see this outside so more could enjoy it, the sound in the rotunda must be just heavenly. Up above is the ascension of George Washington in the rotunda, something he would have absolutely hated. But he is draped in a toga with angels above him holding a laurel wreath crown above him, making him into some sort of god, which, of course, we don't believe in, and he certainly didn't believe in. But this sound echoing through the rotunda must be truly stirring. Battle Hymn of the Republic, which became popular during the Civil War, and something that had not been sung in Richmond, Virginia, ever in public until we did, what was that called, Stu? The troop thing we did in about 2003. Do you remember the name of that?
Of course I do, Glenn.
Yeah.
We've done so many things.
Yeah, I know. I can't remember what that was called, but we did a nationwide tour, and I was told that we could not sing the Battle Hymn of the Republic in Richmond, Virginia. They said the crowd would turn on us.
Wow.
And it had never been done before, and that's when I called and said, good, let's get a black choir in to sing it. And we sang it, and it was stirring and emotional, and the crowd just cheered for it.
Wow.
Rally for America?
Yeah, Rally, thank you. Rally for America.
Thank you. Took a minute.
Allie, how are you feeling today about this?
Oh, I feel good. This is different than obviously 4 years ago, but different than 8 years ago. At least to me, I felt like we had just gotten away with something and we were almost in trouble for it. Like most people were mad at us for winning the election.
Right.
This time there's a shift. Of course, there are people who are upset that Donald Trump won, but more people have accepted now that this is a cultural shift. It's not just that we got away with something, by the skin of our teeth. It's a real shift.
Yeah, and I'm hoping and expecting big things, even just from today.
Yes.
You're going to see the entire government shift rapidly. in a way that I don't think I've ever witnessed before.
Yes. And I mean, the tech giants, the CEOs, even the fashion labels, seemingly publicly supporting this administration in a way, or at least not embarrassed to say, I'm
Yes.
here, she's wearing
Correct.
us.
Correct.
That's a difference.
Correct. It may look like one room, but that is one room itself. And the other picture that you'll see from time to time is underneath the White House. That is the Visitors Center that was built right after 9/11. And underneath those, the Visitor Center, which is underneath the Capitol, is the FISA courts that no one gets into.
And pleasure to introduce to you the 45th and the 47th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
Like Kamala Harris, but for different reasons. I'm almost brought to tears on this.
Yes. It's still unbelievable.
It is.
It feels that way.
Interesting to hear his tone all the way through.
Thank you very
his
much,
strength
everybody. Well,
and his
thank
call
you
for
very,
unity.
very much. Vice President Vance, Speaker Johnson, Senator Thune, Chief Justice Roberts, Justices of the United States Supreme Court, President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama, President Biden, Vice President Harris, and my fellow citizens. The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first. Our sovereignty will be reclaimed. Our safety will be restored. The scales of justice will be rebalanced. The vicious, violent, and unfair weaponization of the Justice Department and our government will end. And our top priority will be to create a nation that is proud, prosperous, and free. America will soon be greater, stronger, and far more exceptional than ever before. I return to the presidency confident and optimistic that we are at the start of a thrilling new era of national success. A tide of change is sweeping the country, sunlight is pouring over the entire world, and America has the chance to seize this opportunity like never before. But first, we must be honest about the challenges we face. While they are plentiful, they will be annihilated by this great momentum that the world is now witnessing in the United States of America. As we gather today, our government confronts a crisis of trust. For many years, a radical and corrupt establishment has extracted power and wealth from our citizens while the pillars of our society lay broken and seemingly in complete disrepair. We now have a government that cannot manage even a simple crisis at home, while at the same time stumbling into a continuing catalog of catastrophic events abroad. It fails to protect our magnificent, law-abiding American citizens, but provides sanctuary and protection for dangerous criminals, many from prisons and mental institutions that have illegally entered our country from all over the world. We have a government that has given unlimited funding to the defense of foreign borders, but refuses to defend American borders or, more importantly, its own people. Our country can no longer deliver basic services in times of emergency, as recently shown by the wonderful people of North Carolina, been treated so badly. And other states who are still suffering from a hurricane that took place many months ago. Or more recently, Los Angeles, where we're watching fires still tragically burn from weeks ago without even a token of defense. They're raging through the houses and communities, even affecting some of the wealthiest and most powerful individuals in our country, some of whom are sitting here right now. They don't have a home any longer. That's interesting. But we can't let this happen. Everyone is unable to do anything about it. That's going to change. We have a public health system that does not deliver in times of disaster, yet more money is spent on it than any country anywhere in the world. And we have an education system that teaches our children to be ashamed of themselves in many cases, to hate our country despite the love that we try so desperately to provide to them. All of this will change starting today, and it will change very quickly. My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place, and to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom. From this moment on, America's decline is over. Our liberties and our nation's glorious destiny will no longer be denied, and we will immediately restore the integrity, competency, and loyalty of America's government. Over the past 8 years, I have been tested and challenged more than any president in our 250-year history, and I've learned a lot along the way. The journey to reclaim our republic has not been an easy one, that I can tell you. Those who wish to stop our cause have tried to take my freedom and indeed to take my life. Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then, and believe even more so now, that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. Thank you. Thank you very much. That is why each day under our administration of American patriots, we will be working to meet every crisis with dignity and power and strength. We will move with purpose and speed to bring back hope, prosperity, safety, and peace for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day. It is my hope that our recent presidential election will be remembered as the greatest and most consequential election in the history of our country. As our victory showed, the entire nation is rapidly unifying behind our agenda with dramatic increases in support from virtually every element of our society, young and old, men and women, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, urban, suburban, rural, and very importantly, we had a powerful win in all 7 swing states, and the popular vote, we won by millions of people. To the Black and Hispanic communities, I want to thank you for the tremendous outpouring of love and trust that you have shown me with your vote. We set records, and I will not forget it. I've heard your voices in the campaign, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and his honor, this will be a great honor, but in his honor, we will strive together to make his dream a reality. We will make his dream come true. Thank you. Thank you. National unity is now returning to America, and confidence and pride is soaring like never before. In everything we do, my administration will be inspired by a strong pursuit of excellence and unrelenting success. We will not forget our country, we will not forget our Constitution, and we will not forget our God. Can't do that. Today, I will sign a series of historic executive orders. With these actions, we will begin the complete restoration of America and the revolution of common sense. It's all about common sense. First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. Illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release. And I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country. Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. And by invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks, bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, including our cities and inner cities. As Commander-in-Chief, I have no higher responsibility than to defend our country from threats and invasions, and that is exactly what I am going to do. We will do it at a level that nobody's ever seen before. Next, I will direct all members of my cabinet to marshal the vast powers at their disposal to defeat what was record inflation and rapidly bring down costs and prices. The inflation crisis was caused by massive overspending and escalating energy prices, and that is why today I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill. America will be a manufacturing nation once again, and we have something that no other manufacturing nation will ever have, the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we are going to use it. Let me use it. We will bring prices down, fill our strategic reserves up again, right to the top, and export American energy all over the world. We will be a rich nation again, and it is that liquid gold under our feet that will help to do it. With my actions today, we will end the Green New Deal, and we will revoke the electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto industry and keeping my sacred pledge to our great American auto workers. In other words, you'll be able to buy the car of your choice. We will build automobiles in America again at a rate that nobody could have dreamt possible just a few years ago. And thank you to the auto workers of our nation for your inspiring vote of confidence. We did tremendously with their vote. I will immediately begin the overhaul of our trade system to protect American workers and families. Instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens. For this purpose, we are establishing the External Revenue Service to collect all tariffs, duties, and revenues. It will be massive amounts of money pouring into our treasury, coming from foreign sources. The American dream will soon be back and thriving like never before to restore competence and effectiveness to our federal government. My administration will establish the brand new Department of Government Efficiency. After years and years of illegal and unconstitutional federal efforts to restrict free expression, I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents, something I know something about. We will not allow that to happen. It will not happen again. Under my leadership, we will restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law. And we are going to bring law and order back to our cities. This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. This week, I will reinstate any service members who were unjustly expelled from our military for objecting to the COVID vaccine mandate with full back pay. And I will sign an order to stop our warriors from being subjected to radical political theories and social experiments while on duty. It's going to end immediately. Our armed forces will be freed to focus on their sole mission, defeating America's enemies. Like in 2017, we will again build the strongest military the world has ever seen. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier. I'm pleased to say that as of yesterday, one day before I assumed office, the hostages in the Middle East are coming back home to their families. Thank you. America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth, inspiring the awe and admiration of the entire world. A short time from now, we are going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, and we will restore the name of a great president, William McKinley, to Mount McKinley, where it should be and where it belongs. President McKinley made our country very rich through tariffs and through talent. He was a natural businessman and gave Teddy Roosevelt the money for many of the great things he did, including the Panama Canal, which has foolishly been given to the country of Panama after the United States. The United States, I mean, think of this, spent more money than ever spent on a project before and lost 38,000 lives in the building of the Panama Canal. We have been treated very badly from this foolish gift that should have never been made, and Panama's promise to us has been broken. The purpose of our deal and the spirit of our treaty has been totally violated. American ships are being severely overcharged and not treated fairly in any way, shape, or form, and that includes the United States Navy. And above all, China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China, we gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back. Above all, my message to Americans today is that it is time for us to once again act with courage, vigor, and the vitality of history's greatest civilization. So as we liberate our nation, we will lead it to new heights of victory and success. We will not be deterred. Together we will end the chronic disease epidemic and keep our children safe, healthy, and disease-free. The United States will once again consider itself a growing nation, one that increases our wealth, expands our territory, builds our cities, raises our expectations, and carries our flag into new and beautiful horizons. And we will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars, launching American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars. Ambition is the lifeblood of a great nation, and right now our nation is more ambitious than any other. There's no nation like our nation. Americans are explorers, builders, innovators, entrepreneurs, and pioneers. The spirit of the frontier is written into our hearts. The call of the next great adventure resounds from within our souls. Our American ancestors turned a small group of colonies on the edge of a vast continent into a mighty republic of the most extraordinary citizens on earth. No one comes close. Americans pushed thousands of miles through a rugged land of untamed wilderness. They crossed deserts, scaled mountains, braved untold dangers, won the Wild West, ended slavery, rescued millions from tyranny, lifted billions from poverty, harnessed electricity, split the atom, launched mankind into the heavens, and put the universe of human knowledge into the palm of the human hand. If we work together, there is nothing we cannot do and no dream we cannot achieve. Many people thought it was impossible for me to stage such a historic political comeback. But as you see today, here I am. The American people have spoken. I stand before you now as proof that you should never believe that something is impossible to do. In America, the impossible is what we do best. From New York to Los Angeles, from Philadelphia to Phoenix, from Chicago to Miami, from Houston to right here in Washington, D.C., our country was forged and built by the generations of patriots who gave everything they had for our rights and for our freedom. They were farmers and soldiers, cowboys and factory workers, steel workers and coal miners, police officers and pioneers who pushed onward, marched forward, and let no obstacle defeat their spirit or their pride. Together they laid down the railroads, raised up the skyscrapers, built great highways, won 2 world wars, defeated fascism and communism, and triumphed over every single challenge that they faced. After all we have been through together, we stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history. With your help, we will restore America, promise, and we will rebuild the nation that we love, and we love it so much. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. So to every parent who dreams for their child, and every child who dreams for their future, I am with you, I will fight for you, and I will win for you. We are going to win like never before. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. In recent years, our nation has suffered greatly, but we are going to bring it back and make it great again, greater than ever before. We will be a nation like no other, full of compassion, courage, and exceptionalism. Our power will stop all wars and bring a new spirit of unity to a world that has been angry, violent, and totally unpredictable. America will be respected again and admired again, including by people of religion, faith, and goodwill. We will be prosperous. We will be proud. We will be strong, and we will win like never before. We will not be conquered. We will not be intimidated. We will not be broken, and we will not fail. From this day on, the United States of America will be a free, sovereign, and independent nation. We will stand bravely. We will live proudly. We will dream boldly, and nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours, and our golden age has just begun. Thank you. God bless America. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Donald J. Trump and his inauguration and his inaugural speech. A good, focused speech for this president. He really stayed on target. I'm going to go through some of the things that he talked about here in just a minute. There was one thing that he said that really gravely disturbed me. I've never heard a president ever utter these words before. We'll get into that in just a minute. But I wanted to ask Allie Beth, what did you think of the speech?
I was a little surprised that right out the gate, as soon as he started the speech, he started indicting and eviscerating everyone in that room.
So
how corrupt and incompetent they were. I loved it. I thought it was a great start of the speech, actually.
I will tell you that it crossed my mind what courage it takes to. He didn't say it to eviscerate. He didn't say it directed at any one person. He eviscerated the policies, and the courage to say that with those eyes right behind you,
yep.
I thought was remarkable.
Me too. And I think everyone appreciated that boldness and that bravery right out of the gate. I did.
I expected that more tonight, though. Or the next, he's going to the arena next, right?
Yes.
He's going to give another speech. That's kind of where I expected that vibe. I mean, it's more, you get more points though for doing it to their faces, basically.
I think so too.
He talked right out of the chute, North Carolina, Los Angeles, left without, quote, a token of defense.
Mm-hmm.
Completely and totally reverse this betrayal of our people. And from this moment on, America's decline is over. Our liberties and destination will no longer be denied. Those are powerful, powerful words that he said. He also said he's learned a lot. Those who wish to stop our cause will not stop at anything, but my life was saved for a reason. My life was saved by God.
Yep.
Several mentions of God in this.
Yes, I was a little, I guess I wasn't surprised that he made that theological claim there, that I was saved by God to make America great again. You know that's going to make a lot of people mad, but the truth is, if you believe in a sovereign God, it was God's providence.
It was.
It was his mercy that saved him. For God's glory, first of all, but also we are beneficiaries of that, also for our good and for America's good. So that's just an objectively true statement.
Hang on, little Carrie Underwood here as she sings in the rotunda.
Beautiful.
Above the fruited plain, America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea.
I think Joe Biden was singing the wrong words, and Kamala was barely singing.
How good was that, though? She looks, of course, always fantastic, but that is an incredible version.
She's the perfect person for that.
She is. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely presidential. That was a great version of that. I mean, incredible.
And she got a lot of heat for it.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, she did.
I'm glad she powered through it, though.
I am too. I am too.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, we're going back to stupid speeches. So let's just go through his speech a little bit more. He talked about the Black and Hispanic community coming together. Reason why I scrolled down this far is because we were talking about God. He said not only was he saved by God, he said later in his speech, I am going to pursue unrelenting success and not forget our God.
Yep. And that's what we want. That's what we want.
He said that each day will work with strength, purpose, and dignity. Today will be remembered as Liberation Day. All of the language of a real revolution is in this speech. He says national unity is returning. He said, in so many words, let me get into the executive orders. And it was a long list of things that he was planning on doing today through executive order. And Stu, this surprised you.
Yeah, I kind of thought we'd get this speech a little bit later. Like, I think this would be the type of thing that he might give at the arena. It was more policy heavy. And I asked you a couple times, just like your view of history, is this speech normally... I mean, I guess, is this the... Maybe it's because it's inside that's throwing me. Is this the equivalent, essentially, to his, the American Carnage speech from 2017? I mean, that was his inauguration speech, right?
Yeah, but no, I think this is Reagan putting the world on notice and saying the era of big government is over. Government is not the answer; it's the problem. Those came in his inaugural speech.
But that's a big theme. That's not necessarily a specific policy like that. And I'm not surprised there was some of that in there. I was surprised at how much he went there. I don't think it's a problem. I just historically didn't realize that's where that stuff was placed.
I think. And I'd have to go back and look at the other speeches, but my recollection, it is a place where he talks, the president will lay out the big vision, but he is so specific on enormous policies because he's got to, this is a moment the entire world was watching. If you follow American politics at all, and let's face it, most people do all around the world right now because we are back, hopefully, in a position of leading out of this darkness. He's got to make very clear statements on the big things. Like, we are taking our national security as paramount of importance right now. We are going to close these borders. I'm going to issue the Army and our military down to the borders. We're not messing around. Drug cartels, you're on notice. You're now a terrorist organization, and we're taking you out.
Yeah.
I mean, those are internationally heavy with ramifications. And I think something that he needed to say, not just the next day, but when the world is watching.
Paying attention. I definitely think it was more specific than Biden, unless my memory is failing me. But you'll notice he was even specific on the culture war things Trump was. When he said 2 genders, male and female. I mean, certainly Biden didn't say anything about transgenderism in his inaugural speech, and he wouldn't have. But the fact that he went in that hard in this speech.
But Biden did go in and talk about equity and inclusion, all this bull crap. All this bull crap. Donald Trump is not that guy.
Yes.
He speaks the language of the American populace. And, listen to some of this language. We're going to end catch and release. Our troops will go to the border to repel the invasion of our country. Cartels are foreign terrorist organizations, and I'm invoking the Alien Act of 1798. All foreign gangs will be gone. As Commander-in-Chief, I will eliminate threats to our country. I mean, these are powerful, powerful words. He then went into gas and oil, et cetera, et cetera. I will end the Green New Deal today, end the electric mandate to keep a deal with our auto workers. I will build autos at a pace we've never before seen, and thank the auto workers for their inspiring vote of confidence. That's the only group that he really paid homage to. Were the auto workers. He said he's no longer going to tax citizens to help foreign countries. He's going to tax foreign countries to help our citizens and establish the internal revenue, the external revenue service, which did not get a clap line. Did you notice that? Then he went into Doge. He's going to stop all government censorship. He didn't talk about the new propaganda laws that we had reversed by Barack Obama, where we can now do propaganda in the United States on our own citizens. I'm hoping that is just an oversight in the speech. He said he's going to end government policies that bring race and gender into every aspect of life, return to merit-based hiring, 2 genders only, reinstate the military that has been fired because of COVID with full back pay, sign an order to stop all social experiments, defeat our enemies in all places. What he said about the military was really interesting. I don't know if you caught this, Stu. We are going to, we will be defined by the battles we win, the wars we end, and the wars we don't get into.
That's profound.
Really good way.
That's always been his view. I mean,
yes.
This is one of the things he's been most consistent about in his entire public discourse.
Right. It's interesting also to me, and I can't figure out why. Is this because of the oil policies that President Biden enacted on the Gulf of America? I mean, it's nice, but that is just a populist thing unless it's tied to opening up the Gulf of Mexico and saying, well, you can't drill in the Gulf of Mexico. It clearly says that, but this is the Gulf of America.
Hillary Clinton laughed out loud when
Did she? I didn't see that. Yeah.
Cackled. I don't know if it was genuine or if she was like, that's ridiculous, but I just thought it was funny to see that from her.
Oh, I'm sure she thinks that's ridiculous. And this restoring of the name, this directed at Barack Obama's term, restoring the name of McKinley from Denali, which President Obama. So there are some map changes that are coming due to this, including the Panama Canal. What did you think, Stu, about his statement? He said, China is operating the canal and we are taking it back. That's a quote.
I mean, you know this better than anybody, Glenn, because you were talking to him about this before he talked about it publicly.
Oh, it was in June or July. It was right after the assassination, and he said to me, you keep your eye on Panama next year. It's going to play a big role in 25.
And this is one of those things that I think hit most of the American people like, huh?
Yes.
Panama Canal. Why is he talking about that? He has been very focused on that throughout the campaign and throughout this transitional period. It's one of the most important issues to Donald Trump. This is not one he's blowing off. I mean, he's serious about Greenland. He wants it. But I don't know that is a thing that is going to dominate his day-to-day operations. The Panama thing is to that level. He really sees this as vitally important for U.S. interests.
Yeah, not just U.S. interest, defense.
Yep.
He sees China in our hemisphere just the way John F. Kennedy saw Russia in our hemisphere. And he's not going to play games with it. He will take it back. I don't know what that means.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. What does that fight look like? Because the CCP won't give it over that easily.
No, but it's Panama that can cancel all those contracts. The United States has the leverage. Now, they take the CCP out of the Panama Canal, we could be looking at a Cuban Missile Crisis kind of standoff on that. That's a very big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the one thing that he said that bothered me. that I've never heard a president ever say ever before. It is time to act with courage and lead our country to new heights, a country that expands our territory. What does that mean? Expands our territory. We have always been a country that does not take the spoils of war, so I know he doesn't mean it through war. But what is the expanding of our territory that he is confident in? It would be Panama, or is it Greenland? Is it both? Is it Canada? I mean, what is he talking about there?
He has kind of talked about buying all of these places.
I know he has.
We don't know.
I know. And it would be, honestly, it would be the best, $5 trillion America has ever spent if they were up for sale. So he said, expand our territory and take back our manifest destiny. Now, I'm not sure the president knows the real history of manifest destiny, but that's where America went wrong in the 1820s and 30s. Manifest destiny is different than divine providence. In fact, it is the opposite of divine providence. Divine providence is do the things that the Lord asks you to do, and doors will be opened for you. Manifest destiny is we're here because God wants us here. We're taking it.
No matter what.
No matter what. And that's those two things. I don't think he understands the difference between manifest destiny. What'd you say?
He wasn't specific on everything else that we've talked about. He was very specific about what he was going to do. This was the one time where he just kind of threw out the euphemism.
Yes.
And he didn't explain it.
Yes.
There's got to be a reason for that.
Yes. Expands our territory and reclaims our manifest destiny.
It's consistent with the Panama thing, though, because if you think about, I think Trump looks back at like the period where we're expanding as a great period of American history, where we're doing things, we're growing, we're the country that's growing and not receding, and then Panama is, hey, we're embarrassed for all our colonialism. I'm so sorry about all that. Here, have the canal.
Yes.
I think he wants to reverse that completely. And Greenland, I think, lines up with that as well. I think this is in his head, whether it's a more of a vibe or an actual set of like hardcore policies is still to be seen.
I think Panama is going to be a hardcore policy, and that you're right could be viewed as manifest destiny in saying we are not ashamed of who we are. We didn't necessarily do it the right thing, but we've paid the price for those things, and we're no longer going to cower and give things away because of something that happened 100 years ago. Sorry.
We're not paying reparations.
We're not paying reparations anymore. And if he means it that way, that's great. And expanding our territory, I just don't see him ever considering taking Greenland. I mean, what, are we going to go to war with Denmark? I mean, it's not going to happen. And I don't see him doing that. I do see him as a negotiator.
Yeah.
And negotiating a very good price for either the rights to certain things in Greenland or buying it. Although the prime minister of Greenland said they're not interested. All 38 people are not interested.
What do you think about renting to own?
Rent to own, I like that.
You like that?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with a 5-1 arm.
That's a nice
That is the inauguration of number 47, Donald Trump. Now, they go from here to the Capitol Arena, and also he is going to be leaving this room here in a few minutes, and he's going to be signing at the Capitol. He's not waiting until 3 this afternoon. He is signing a large, what is being called an omnibus of these executive orders to get them going. At 12:01, he was sworn in as President of the United States. By 12:05, the new leaders of the Secret Service, the military, everybody else, they were sworn in. All of those positions changed. Those critical positions changed within 1 minute of him being sworn in as President of the United States. It's an amazing thought of this transfer of power. That doesn't happen when there's a prime minister in England. The prime minister changes. Everything else stays the same. This time, it's all at once.
There's rumors that he might sign the executive orders at the arena in front of the crowd. Is that possible?
Possible. I know he was signing them right after the swearing in. So he may be going, but that is just like Donald Trump. I mean, can you imagine saying what every executive order is and
then you don't even have to come up with a speech.
Yeah.
No.
You just sign them and go.
Yeah.
Have you ever
come up with a speech, I'm sure.
Yes. Oh, yeah. He's always got something to say. Yeah.
Have you ever seen Donald Trump's signature?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this.
It's just like that. Very unique, very different. Ricky, would you go around that corner, or maybe Chance, you can do it. Go around that corner. There is a picture of Melania. Have you seen this? Right there. And she signed it. Can you grab it for me if you can? I saw this today. It blew my mind. It is Melania Trump's signature. There's a picture here where we are. We're at the American First Policy Institute. There's Donald Trump's signature.
It's the same.
And that's Melania's signature.
You're right.
Wow.
Is that not incredible?
They definitely orchestrated that at some point in their lives.
At some point, one of them had to have changed. Either that or they are truly a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I had never seen her signature before.
Yes.
And it's
a very
almost the same
way. It's not
very
a coincidence.
Unique. Yeah. Look at the way he says Trump or writes Trump. It's almost exactly the same.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. Wow.
Isn't that incredible? Yeah. I'd love to, Ricky, we should get somebody on at
idea.
some point to talk about handwriting.
Yes.
And how that happened. Because that's incredible to me.
You gotta go back and look at her like signature from the modeling days and see if it was the same. Like, did she adapt it to?
I don't know.
He was like, "This is part of the deal.
Right,
you have to do this.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why. I don't know. You just do."
Because they're definitely different shapes as people. I've noticed they're not a little different.
They're not the same. You know, people are talking about their initial kiss. I don't know if you saw this when he came out. And people are saying that's almost why she wore the wide brim hat.
Because
stop it. He couldn't get to her. It was awkward, poor guy.
Yeah.
She does look beautiful, but it made the kiss a little difficult.
What did you think about the fact that designers are now not ashamed of saying they're dressing?
Oscar de la Renta.
Yeah.
I mean, Usha Vance looked beautiful in the black dress that Oscar de la Renta, I guess, custom made for her. I love that. I mean, that was the thing when Melania was first lady the first time. Why isn't she on the cover of Vogue? She's maybe the most beautiful first lady we've ever had. I'm wondering if that'll change this time.
I hope so. She was so wronged.
Yeah.
I mean,
she was.
You know, it's amazing to me how much Donald Trump, they say Donald Trump just hates women. He doesn't want to empower women. And every woman around him is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all of his daughters, his wife, they are all powerful and successful.
Yes. First female chief of staff, right?
Yes.
Stu Wiles?
Yes.
So
who is like, do not mess with her.
No.
You know, that's not some little bunny that's running around. You don't mess with her.
Yeah. Plenty of men he could have picked from if he hated women.
Yeah. And he clearly doesn't.
Interesting, too. The first, this is a guy, as we know, Donald Trump, who hates all immigrants.
Yes.
And then, of course, he oddly married one, which is kind of interesting.
Well, he's going to send her back.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And then also the vice president's wife is a first generation American, right? She was a daughter of Indian immigrants, if I remember correctly. I mean, what a statement that is, especially when we're told constantly that this guy doesn't like people who don't look like him and don't come from America. It's quite an amazing thing that's never happened before, right?
Right.
I guess back in the very early days, it probably did.
I have to tell you, I in some ways, I think he doesn't like people who look differently than him. I mean, look how many of his children look almost exactly like him and Melania, and he loves them.
Yeah.
He is taking care of those guys. They are, it's a remarkable family, just truly a remarkable family. Allie, we will see you tonight. Are you going home tonight?
No, I'm not going home tonight.
You're not going home?
Be around.
You'll be around.
Yes.
I'm going to the inaugural ball tonight, which I'm hoping, this is probably the last inauguration I'll ever do. It wasn't like when I went to the correspondence dinner, that was just slimy. I felt like I was in a Lifetime movie. I went back to the hotel and just was rocking back and forth in the shower trying to get clean. But it's an interesting thing, probably worth doing one time in your life.
Mm-hmm.
But tonight the official ball is happening and the president will be there, and we'll take a camera this time. I didn't bring a camera last night. We'll take a camera and we'll post.
And you're going to the actual ball?
Yes.
You are. What will you be wearing?
What will I be wearing?
Yes.
I'll be wearing.
What muumuu will you?
I will be wearing. I'll be wearing. My hat will be Stetson.
Okay, all right. Nice.
And I have other things planned, but I might just wear my hat.
Okay.
Yes.
The visual.
Yeah.
First we get the shower visual, and now.
Thank you. And on that note.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Allie. Let me go to Matthew Peterson. Bring him in the next hour. And one of the things that I'm really worried about is the parade. He is going to go in and do things inside of the stadium, but I will tell you that we have seen the helicopters, we've heard the helicopters, we've seen his motorcade now. He is entering into the beast now for the first time for the last 4 years. He'll be flying again on Air Force One, so those have defenses against any kind of drones or anything like that. But I am concerned about the parade this afternoon because there's no way you keep him inside of that car. But if we can just get him through to tonight, I think our fears can be put at rest, hopefully, at least for a while, that no harm will come to our president. Matthew Peterson, welcome.
It's a good day.
What'd you think?
I'm still keeping my emotions in check because that was not something that necessarily was going to happen. And when they write the history books, right, I mean, it'll look like the great comeback. And of course, it was inevitable. But just thinking of Providence, thinking of all the people who came together to make this day possible.
Yeah.
I feel really grateful to be an American, and that was something that a lot of people would have said 2 years ago was impossible.
Yeah.
And here we are.
And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but he has matured. And it's hard to say about a man of his age, but he has matured. Last time, there were times that it was just snarky.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen snarkiness from him in a long time. What he did take on the establishment, and he did take on the former president, but those are all things that he truly believes, and he said them in a polite way. He was just very, very clear.
Yeah, and I think in a way his speech is much more moderate than the other side. I mean, who has been using the most reckless rhetoric in American history for the last 4 years, calling their opponent Hitler and all kinds of terrible things. And Trump, of course, referred to the destruction that the establishment has wrought yet again. But mostly this was about the future. This was about regaining the American frontier in the 21st century and that spirit of America. And that, I think, is what I really take away from this overall. This was about the future. This was about hope. And that's something we really need right now.
What did you think? I don't know if you heard our conversation a minute ago about we will expand our territory. I haven't heard that from a president. What do you think he meant by that? Is that Panama? Is that buying other countries? What does that mean?
I think, it's the capacious American spirit to continue to adventure. You know what I mean? It's that we need open-ended quests. We need an open-ended life is exciting. We live in a society that's very oppressive, It's like everything's stuck in these boxes.
Yes.
And we miss that frontier. So if it is, more strategic measures like Panama, then great. But if it's planting the American flag on Mars, even better. And I think
that may have been, as you started talking, I looked down and I realized he said we are going to return to a country that expands its territory and reclaims its manifest destiny. And then he went right into, and we will plant our flag on Mars.
Yes.
So he may have been talking about interplanetary territory.
Oh yeah, I mean he was pointing right directly to Mars, and I think that it's not just about going to the moon, going to Mars. It's not just about making sure that we're safe, on this planet Earth. I think it's a spiritual thing as well. It's the spirit that says, no, we're going to build new things. We're going to create better and better civilization, right? And that I think is the space that we want right now, and no one talks like that. No one talks like that anymore.
But that is the problem that we have had with president after president. Really, I mean, I think I could give Clinton some credit when he said, again, the era of big government is over. That was a vision, a small vision, but it was a vision that he kind of adopted. But we really haven't had a visionary since Reagan, and before that, I'd have to say it was JFK. Somebody who was pointing to a place, that's an evil empire, and we will defeat it, or we're going to send people to the moon and bring them back home. This is the first time a president has been, in my opinion, since those two, that is a big visionary and sees a different world and is pointing us in that direction and asking us to come together because that's worth living for.
Yes, and I mean, I love that. Realize this is in the context of everyone thinking in the back of their minds, decline is inevitable.
Yes.
That there is no way things can get better, that things are getting worse, everything's falling apart, everything's terrible. And look, the right does this when we complain about real problems we see in the landscape, and Trump is saying, no. I mean, I love the decline ends.
Yes.
There's no more decline. We're moving forward, and we still can move forward. And just to say those words, just to say the words is a powerful, powerful thing, especially on top of the greatest comeback in living political memory.
If you were to write history, what are the lines that stick out to you that you would write and say, that's going to be remembered in history? Were there any lines?
I think that one is like the starter point. Decline is over.
Yes.
Right? And then I think what he said about the future, about both the frontier and the manifest destiny to the stars. If he's successful, those lines will be remembered, because it's not just some airy thing, right? This is not a fake thing. Elon Musk is sitting there. The technology, is there. The innovation is there. And the spirit and will, it now appears, is back.
The first line, too, kind of summarizes it with that. What was the exact wording? The golden age of America starts now?
Yes.
Yes.
And I think the other is also, if he accomplishes what he wants to accomplish, today is Liberation Day.
Yes.
Liberating us from the oppressive state. If he can get that done, that's huge. You're seeing on your screen now Joe Biden and Jill Biden going off to Marine One, being escorted by the president and first lady. This is what happens. The president just goes away, except for Barack Obama. He just goes away, and he'll give his salute as he turns around, as Nixon did with the V for victory salute. But this is part of the peaceful transfer of power. And up until the Clintons, when the president got aboard for the last time Marine One and to go home, that's the last time you ever saw them. Yeah. They would go home, and they would be the citizen farmer, citizen soldier, as Washington was, Cincinnatus, and go back into the regular life. They were not to be called president for the rest of their life. They became Mr. Biden once again. We don't have that. And since the Clintons, we have this kind of a royalty that continues to be in, the public's eye and making money. I think the Clintons were the first to discover there's millions and millions and millions to be made after you leave office. Why wouldn't you leave office, make that money without any of the responsibility?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about also the Obamas, of course, and all their expertise in entertainment, which is why they got those tens of millions of dollars from Netflix, that kind of stuff is disturbing. I think just by sheer virtue of Biden's shape that he's in, right? I mean, I don't think he'll be as active
No.
Sadly for him personally, but that is actually a good thing and a return to some kind of normalcy of a better era where, the last thing that we should want, and we should really point out that Obama bears a lot of blame here. This is someone who is actively engaged in politics in a way that was considered, as you point out, a very wrong thing to do.
Yeah,
yes.
Very wrong. I think I think that Clinton changed it to where you kind of stay in the eye and you make money, but you don't get involved necessarily in policies. Now, his wife did, but he was, making money through the charities, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But Barack Obama took it after he left and actually ran a shadow government. I mean, I think that, let's be honest, this president that just left office, he was under the thumb of the minions of Barack Obama.
And this is what we have to end, and this is the hope of this day. The promise of this day is that if you disagree politically, right, go back to normal politics and try to argue your case in front of the public. Rather than the backdoor, deals, the shadow government, that is what needs to be dragged out in the open. That is what should start in a few hours with these executive orders. That whole deep state thing, this all needs to be dragged out into the light. We need transparency, and we need real political battle out in public. And what we've come to is exactly what I think Barack Obama is responsible for. And the problem with that is not that there's political disagreement, right? But that it's behind the scenes.
Thank you very much, Matthew. I appreciate it. We're going to bring Chris Bedford in here to get his point of view. And to the control room, please keep the picture-in-picture of anything that is going on as we watch President Biden and Marine One taking off here in just a few minutes. Go ahead, Chris. Come on in and join us. I'd like to hear your impression of the speech, what happened, what you heard. As we're getting ready to talk to Chris, there's Marine One winding up, and I believe taking him to the vice presidential plane, if I'm not mistaken, and the vice presidential plane, which could be called Air Force One if the president is on it, as he is no longer the president. I don't know what designation it will have, but it will not be Air Force One. And this is not actually Marine One at this point because he is no longer the president. What were your thoughts on the speech and how things went so far, Chris?
Well, it was wonderful. I was in about the 10th row when he gave his inaugural speech in 2017. And this speech was shorter, but it was also a lot less dark. The American Carnage speech, if you remember, painted a pretty dark picture of what the United States was up against. And while the challenges certainly haven't gotten lesser, the challenges have really actually more exposed, which can be helpful to any president. He's much more aware of the dangers around him. It was so much more optimistic. The policies that he was lining out, he wasn't talking about his enemies. He wasn't talking about his grievances, something that played a big role in his 2020 campaign. He was talking about the future, talking about manifest destiny. Yes. And what you've talked about so much in the years since in the months you've been with him since the assassination attempt, his demeanor has noticeably changed. Noticeably changed.
He is walking with confidence. He doesn't feel like he needs to strike back,
It's legacy mode.
Yeah, he's in legacy mode. We're watching right behind me. I don't know if you can see this on camera, but right about here, where is it? Someplace up here. Right there is the president leaving. You can now see that from this distance here with the human eye. You can see the green and white of the helicopter now taking former president. Boy, that sounds good. Former president Joe Biden out. You're also seeing the crowd at the Capitol now in picture. And you're seeing the Capital One Center and the people that were supposed to be out front, the 10 or 20,000 that were able to get in, first come, first serve, I believe. They are now waiting for the president to show up there. What were the parts of the speech that you found? I mean, first of all, can you comment on, was this a normal speech, or was this much more specific than former presidents?
It was much more specific than former presidents. It dealt with specific policies. It dealt with specific countries. It took things that Trump had floated at press conferences or talked about on X, and it put it into, this will be the policy of the United States. And I think one of the lines that really choked me up is when he said, I was saved by God to make America great again. He talked about how he almost wasn't here. And that emotion that flashed across his face during the prayers when his parents were remembered about how they brought Donald Trump into this world, and they're watching down from heaven, was something that I am not used to seeing on Trump's face. There was definite flicker that went across it as he thought about them.
He hides that. He has told me several times he finds that as a weakness, that you as president or a leader of the world should not be showing those kinds of emotion.
The Cary Grant generation, the strong, silent type.
Exactly right.
And I think he's right. I think we talk too much about him or our emotions, but he was setting out specific ideas, and he didn't shrink away at all from the people who brought him there and the policy that brought him there. Remember, Barack Obama was very talented at cloaking his extremely liberal agenda in the language of Ronald Reagan, in conservative language. To hear a State of the Union from him would be to think that he was taking care of things that you and I cared about, when in fact he was not. Donald Trump, while optimistic and light and not digging down into partisanship, was absolutely representing that populist conservative MAGA agenda. A muscular foreign policy that's not getting into needless wars, a America that demands other countries keep their promises to America, keep their treaties, a warning to those countries that would cross us. And it's kind of shocking that a president of the United States has to say this, and now it's been entered in the official government letters, but that there are only two genders. That it's men and women.
Yeah, that it has to be an official government policy, which means the passports, which have now allowed you to claim X as a gender, are going to change again. Those passports that have, a different gender other than male and female someday will be in a museum, hopefully for the years, showing the years that America went mad. By the way, we just saw two other helicopters, and they appeared to be the same make and model of Marine One, headed towards the Capitol Arena, if I'm not mistaken. And that may have been the president. They obviously always fly with at least two helicopters, so you never know which one the president is to shoot down. And that is no longer afforded to the former president.
One other minor thing here is we're talking about this, and you mentioned the man and woman thing as an official U.S. policy. We talk a lot about how Donald Trump has changed conservatism and how Donald Trump maybe has changed the culture of the country, but also his supporters have changed Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump's first response to this was, let him go to the bathroom wherever they want. I mean, that's where he was at the beginning. This is back in like 2016, 2017. He didn't see this as a big crisis. He didn't see this as a massive problem. And because his supporters, who obviously adore him, went to him, I think persuaded him on this and changed his view on it. And he now sees it as really, really important. It's something that maybe, it's a smaller thing maybe, but it's something that's interesting. I think like that he is willing to adapt to his, to what his supporters believe if they can be convincing.
I don't know if he adapted to them as much as he is loyal to them. In talking,
maybe you're right. Maybe right.
In talking to him, he is very loyal to those people. I mean, after he won after he lost in 2020, I spoke to him about 3 or 4 months later, and he had a moment of humility and a moment that changed my understanding of him in a much deeper way. I said, "How are you holding up?" And he said, "Not well. I can't sleep. All of these people," and he almost got teary-eyed. I mean, it felt like he was on the verge of, I thought he was going to tear up. He said, all of those people that fought so hard for me, that stood up for me, and now I've lost the election. I promised them that I would fix this nation, and I was on the road, and now look at it. And I've let them down. I think he is so loyal, and this is his key to understanding his supporters. He is the first guy that is actually truly loyal to the people. Most politicians get in and they're loyal to the bigwigs, the people who have financed their campaign, the corporations, and not the people that are just living on Main Street, USA. He is he's almost the anti-politician in some ways.
And we've talked about this on the air before, but if he had won, then today we'd be watching him and Vice President Mike Pence hand off the White House, almost certainly, to a Democratic president who would have come in because of all the damage that was done to our country through COVID. And the fact that the wings are so much more full with incredible talent now, the future of MAGA is set. And to your point, Stu, I think there's also something where a lot of Americans have changed over the last couple of years on transgender bathrooms. The transgender lobby, like so many other lobbies that push for these kind of moral crusades from the left or anti-moral crusades, took advantage of that libertarian spirit in America, the live and let live. You often hear some of the most vicious people preach tolerance until they're actually in power. And when they have power, they have no tolerance.
Let's listen to President Trump. He's now in the basement of the Capitol.
We were freezing. You would have been very unhappy. The sun was very deceptive, I will tell you. It is cold out. And I'm sort of saying, that was so beautiful today. Maybe they should do it there every 4 years. Does that make sense? I don't know. Because, the outdoor thing is really good, but it gets a little cold around this time of the year, as some people have noticed. And a lot of times they suffer.
He sounds like my wife.
There was no suffering in that room. It was 72 degrees. It was perfect with the best acoustics I think I've ever heard in a room. This is not so bad either. But I just want to say, you're a younger, far more beautiful audience that I just spoke to. And I want to keep it off the record. I want to keep that off the record because I don't want to have all those big shots up there. I don't want to think you're more powerful than them, you look better than them, and I love you. Now, we just had a great time. We just had a great day. This was amazing. When you think we took a journey, I mentioned in the speech, a lot of people said that was not a journey that was possible, and it was indeed possible. I didn't really know too much about what they were saying when they said that, but a lot of people felt it. And we hooked up with J.D. very early. I watched J.D. over a period of time. I endorsed him in Ohio. He was a great senator and very, very smart. The only one smarter than him was his wife. That was I would have chosen her, but somehow the line of succession didn't work that way, right? But now she's great and he's great. This is a great, beautiful couple and unbelievable career. I just said to him, you are very upwardly mobile, because he hasn't been doing it that long, but he picked it up so quickly. Remember, the first week was a little bit like the fake news was hitting him really hard. And I said, ooh, this may be tough, but after that, it was smooth sailing for him. He took on everybody. He took on the meanest. I don't want to use the word corrupt because we're into a new system, so let's wait till the corruption begins, because it will. But he took on some pretty mean people, and he handled it well. I want to also congratulate Mike Johnson for the job that he's doing. Steve, we gave him a majority of almost nothing, and then I said to make it tougher on him, let me take 2 or 3 of the people, right? I said, he'll only have to suffer with that for about 3 months. How are they doing, by the way? Are they? Is that moving along?
Totally unified.
I said, do you mind if I take this one, that one, and a couple of others? He didn't mind. He can handle it. No, he's a man that's liked by everybody. I've never met a man like this. You've got how many is it, 219 or 220 or something? 220. And of the 220, 219 really like him. I noticed he got 1 negative vote once about 2 weeks ago. But I think even 220 like him, if you want to know the truth. And that's very unusual. I know a lot of nice guys in Congress, and they have 35 people that hate him. So if you have 35 people that hate you and you only have 1 or 2 or 3 votes, you'll have 5, I think. But that's going to be like, the good news is when we get to that 5 number, it's going to feel like a massive majority. You could be really nasty to a couple of them at least, So it's going to feel like hitting your head on the wall and stopping. It feels so good to stop. But he's done a fantastic job. And Steve Scalise he's our hero because, I was with him. You talk about being shot. I was with him. He got some bad ones, and his incredible wife, and she really loves him. You never know about that. I've been with other people that were doing poorly, and the wife is like looking at her watch. She can't get out of the hospital fast enough. How's he doing? Oh, I don't know. He's all right. That woman was a mess. She was crying and crying. No, they're going to take him. They're going to take him. I told Steve when he finally woke up, it was a while too. The doctor told me it was the most blood they've ever transfused in any patient. They've never done anything like it. And here he is, the picture of strength, right? And he's been a great friend of mine, right? With a family, because of a family. And what a job you did. It worked out pretty much better than we even thought, right? And I did have a couple of things, to say that were extremely controversial. And between J.D. and Melania and anybody else that heard, please, sir, it's such a beautiful, unifying speech. Please, sir, don't say these things. I said, I'm telling you, it's going to play great. They say, you're right. For this group of people, it's going to play great. You're the only ones I hurt by not, but we had some beauties, didn't we, Melania? She said, sir, calls me sir when she's angry. No, I'm only kidding. I better say I'm only kidding, or the press is going to pick that one up loud and clear. No, but she said, no, I think it would be terrible. It's such a nice speech. I think it's, it all depends on your delivery. How was the delivery? Was it good? But she said it's such a beautiful speech. You can't put things in there that you were going to put in. And I was going to talk about the J6 hostages, but you'll be happy because, it's action, not words that count. And you're going to see a lot of action on the J6 hostages. See a lot of action. And I was going to talk about the things that Joe did today with the pardons of people that were very, very guilty of very bad crimes, like the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs, where they literally, what they did is they destroyed and deleted all of the information, all of the hearings, practically not a thing left. They deleted all the information on Nancy Pelosi having turned down the offer of 10,000 soldiers. You wouldn't have needed 10,000. You could have had 500, and it would have stopped. Because we may have had 1 million people that day, the people that were there. You don't see any photographs, but we have a lot of great photos. But you don't see those photographs. They don't put them in. They show the people at the Capitol. But I was talking about that. I was going to talk about that. They said, please don't bring that up right now. You can bring it up tomorrow. I said, how about now in front of the I'll bring it up right now. This little time delay is good because we're getting great reviews on the speech. Now watch. They'll take the speech and say, I didn't like it because he left there and he's talked to people. But we're giving you a little more information than we gave upstairs. But no, they pardoned a lot of people. They pardoned, before we even get to today, they pardoned, 33 murderers, absolute murderers, the worst murderers. When you get the death sentence in the United States, you have to be bad, because they don't give it much. And he pardoned almost everybody having a death sentence. And if you went through the crimes that were committed, you wouldn't even believe them, the level of violence, the people that were killed, the innocence of people that were killed, and children killed by these people. And he pardoned them for whatever reason. He spared them, but they didn't spare the people that they killed. You know, who knows what happens in the future. It's one of the worst because a lot of times they let them out early after that. You know, they say you're going to be in for life, but then all of a sudden they get let out for good behavior, and then they go on a rampage. You know, it's one of those little things, right? But I was going to talk about that. But I was really going to talk about the level of, you know, what's going on. Why are we doing this? Why are we trying to help a guy like Milley? Why are we doing Milley? He was pardoned. What he said, terrible what he said. Why are we helping some of the people? Why are we helping Liz Cheney? I mean, Liz Cheney is a disaster. She's a crying lunatic and crying Adam Kinzinger. He's a super crying. I never saw the guy not crying. He's always crying. I looked at him. I remember years ago he was actually on my side. And then one day, you know, when you don't want to kill people in wars, they turn against you. Liz Cheney hated the concept of not going to war with everybody. Let's kill everybody. Let's spend a lot of money on military equipment, you know, where her father works, right? And, but what she did was incredible. Think of it. They destroyed and deleted all of that information that went on for almost 2 years against Trump. And the reason they did, because it was all false. Like the person that said, I tried to strangle a Secret Service agent. That's one of the toughest human beings I think I've ever seen. I actually had a friend saying, please don't change that, sir. You are the coolest sucker in history. Remember, she said, I put my hands around his neck because he wouldn't go to the Capitol. Made up fiction. And I was rebuffed. And the guy on the right is a massive weightlifter, probably stronger than me. Do you think he's stronger than me, honey? You know who I'm talking about. Possibly stronger than me. Slightly younger than me, like, I won't say how many years because I don't want to talk about that, but a lot of years. But I had a friend that said, why are you disputing that story? That's the coolest story I've ever heard. That I would attack a karate champion, get slightly rebuffed, and then throw my arms around a guy with a neck about this big. Even though there are bars, you know, there are bars, you can't really do that anyway. So I wanted to talk about that. But all of that stuff got deleted. And the reason it got deleted is they were all caught in lies. You know, Secret Service testified, and they said it didn't happen. Actually, the two guys were very embarrassed. They're suffering because their friends are saying, did Trump really do that to you? But they gained a whole new respect for me. But it was just make-believe stuff, and there were a lot of make-believe stories made up. So rather than suffer the wrath, like the story with Nancy Pelosi, I offered her 10,000 soldiers. She knows it. She admitted it on tape that her daughter made. She's a videographer or whatever you call her, which I'm glad she is. Oh, she can't be in good stead with Nancy. But Nancy said it was my responsibility as she's leaving the Capitol. She said it was, and it was. She's in charge of security at the Capitol. But I offered them up to 10,000 soldiers, even more. One time I said more, as many as you need. But you needed 400 or 500. If 4 or 5, you 10,000, that would be more than the number of people there by lot. But we offered her 10,000. Think of it, 10,000 soldiers. In other words, J6 wouldn't be J6. There would have been no J6. But she rebuffed them. She didn't like it. No, she didn't like it. Maybe she wanted that to happen. But she's guilty as hell. And now we would have to go through the process because they destroyed all evidence. They deleted everything. There's virtually nothing left. The other fake story and so many other fake stories. And many people came out on our side. And those people now would got to find them. There's nothing left. So that's a criminal offense. If that were a civil case, it would be a criminal offense. If that happened civilly where you did that, it would be a criminal offense. So I decided I'm not going to make this speech complicated. I'm going to make it beautiful. I'm going to make it a unifying speech. And then when they said we have a group of people that are serious Trump fans, I said, this is the time to tell those stories. He knows. So anyway, but seriously, I'd like to, I think it was a tremendous success. I think we're very lucky we put it inside because it is really cold. We just went to the helicopter out of respect. It's something that's taken place for a long time. I guess it's as old as helicopters. You used to get into a stagecoach, now you get into a helicopter. Times change. But it's pretty old custom. And it's a beautiful custom, actually. It's a beautiful custom. I wish we could have had a better relationship. I wish we could have had a better relationship between Republicans and Democrats. I was with Senator Schumer. I said, Chuck, I think it's time we all start getting along a little bit because it doesn't make sense. I mean, we literally never get a Democrat vote. They never get a Republican vote, almost. And although there is a bill coming up very shortly that we have a lot of Democrat votes, right? That's going to be a very beautiful bill. We're going to have a deciding, I would say, within a week or so, I think. And it's going to be a very good bill. You all know what I'm talking about. So I just want to thank you all for being here. You have been our fans from day one. All these people all over. You've been our fans. This has been there's never been anything like it. There's never been anything like it. This has been a movement like no movement ever in history for probably any country, let alone this country. You know, if somebody's running for president, and if they go out and they announce they're going to Arizona, they're going to Nevada, they're going to someplace, if you have 200 or 300 people, that would be standard. Ronald Reagan would go out. I mean, outside of the last couple of days where people get a little excited, but even then you have a couple of thousand people. But if you're going to go someplace, any place, any one of the swing states, any one of the other states, I mean, how about the non-swing states? We won Alabama by 48 points. We won Tennessee by massive numbers. Wyoming, we won by numbers that are, nobody's ever seen numbers like that. And, you know, places like California, we did great, but when they send out like 38 million ballots, and nobody knows where the hell they're sending them, and then they come pouring back, the whole thing. You know, they passed a law in California that if you work in an election bureau, and if you so much as ask for a voter ID, if you say, sir, ma'am, could I please look at your voter ID? They have the right to put you in jail. You're a criminal. Can you believe that? There's only one reason that happens. They want to cheat. So they had it where voter ID wasn't accepted. But now if you even ask for it, this is seriously a bill that was just signed, passed in their legislature, and it was signed. And I think when we get things cleaned up and we get back to a little bit of normalcy, I'm going to ask the speaker to really get involved, because I think we would have won the state of California, because, you know, if you look at my numbers with Hispanic, we're at 56%. And we were winning. We won the Texas border that had never been won. As the governor said, he's doing a good job, the governor, by the way, of Texas. But as the governor said, it hasn't. Oh, did I get lucky? Did I get lucky? Supposing I said, you know, he's not here, but the governor of Texas has done a terrible job. Wow, look at you. You mean we couldn't get you up in the front row? I'll tell you. Supposing I said, JD, the governor of Texas, he's not doing his job. You heard what I said. See, I didn't know you were there. I said he's doing a great job. He's doing a phenomenal job. But now you're going to have a partner that's going to work with you, because you didn't have, not only didn't he have a partner, he had people selling the wall, right? We have a fence structure that we worked on, the governor worked on with me. And I didn't love it, to be honest with you. I wanted a nice precast concrete, you know, 40, 50 feet high, like a beautiful, could have been a T-shape, Y-shape. I love construction. I wanted that sucker to go up maybe 50, 60 feet. It would have looked beautiful, a nice Y shape. And they said, the problem is, sir, they climbed that like a rabbit. I said, what do you mean? No way. And they brought some of these guys out. They climbed it like... And the other thing is you hit it with acid and the thing will disintegrate. You know, they have things for concrete. So they needed very hardened steel, very special steel. And then they needed 7,000-pound concrete inside that steel, inside that steel. And then they have a rebar that's the toughest steel made. Very hard to cut. So this is why very little is cut. I mean, it's right. And then they put a anti-climb panel on top. I hated it. I said, it's so unattractive. And I said, why would that work? I don't believe it works. And I went to watch the Border Patrol, gave a display. We had actually 2 sets of climbers. The guys that climb up walls with drugs on their back, I mean, they got like 60, 70 pounds of drug, and they go as fast as you can walk. They go bip, bip, bip. Or we have Mount Everest type climbers. And honestly, the drug guys were much better. I couldn't believe it. The drug guys blew them away, right? But it's true, the anti-climb panel, they couldn't get around it. They just couldn't. You didn't have it. So sometimes you sacrifice beauty for efficiency. And we did. So we built this wall, and we built over 500 miles of wall. That's why we had such good numbers. The famous chart that came down, very thankfully, the chart that came down on my right, Governor, had I not looked over there, I'm not speaking right now. You might be speaking here. You want to know the truth? You, JD, we've got a lot of great people in this party, but I got very lucky, but we had the best numbers we've ever had. But I bought, you know what happens is when you fill it up, it's like water. You fill it up. Now we have 571 miles of wall. And they would always say, you know, when we renovated a wall, so there'd be like a piece of plywood sitting there for 60 years, or a 2x4 sitting for 60 years on the ground and rotting. Because, you know, and they'll say, you didn't build a new wall. Here we're building 50 feet up in the air, 30 feet sections, 50-foot sections, all steel, all concrete, all everything. And all, by the way, they don't even want me to say this, but what the hell, doesn't take that long time. They're all wired for all of the equipment. We put wires in everything so they can easily wire for all the different types of equipment. And if there's a doubt, we have a wire. Whenever we just look, you just find the wires all over the place up top, so we can just hook it up. We don't have to have wires on the outside, which wouldn't do too well, right? So anyway, so we built an extra 200 miles of wall, and the governor wanted to buy it. He tried to buy it, and they wouldn't sell it to him. He wanted to put it up himself. Could have been done in 3 to 4 weeks, 200 more miles, because when you do it now, they just keep going further out, further out, further out, getting around. So we did an extra 200 miles, and it was all bought. And they announced that they're not going to put it up. And that's when I realized they wanted open borders, and that's when I realized that people are going to come pouring through the wall like nobody's ever seen before. But you've seen it. A lot of you are here because of that. I made it my #1 issue. They all said inflation was the #1 issue. I said I disagree. I think people coming into our country from prisons and from mental institutions is a bigger issue for the people that I know. And I made it my #1. I talked about inflation too, but you know, how many times can you say that an apple has doubled in cost? I'd say it, and I'd hit it hard, but then I go back to the fact that we don't want criminals coming into our country. We don't want the jails of every country in the world virtually being deposited into the United States. And that man had to suffer with it. And he did an unbelievable job. I'll tell you, he was a very popular governor, but now he's like an unbeatable governor because of your border policies. He was fantastic. And he really was. So. Governor Abbott he's a great man, great leader. And but it did make him did you do it? You didn't do that for politics. You did it because you wanted to do the right thing. But I'll tell you, it sure as hell worked for politics too. It's self-preservation, that's right. But no, because the people are demanding it. The people of Texas are demanding it. The people are demanding it all over. So anyway, so we built it, and they wouldn't let us use it. They wouldn't let the governor use it. And other governors, they wouldn't let him use it. But he was the leader of the pack and did a great job. And then we heard about a month ago that not only wouldn't they let us use it, they were selling it. They were going to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar. Now, 5 cents on the dollar then, but today it would cost more than twice as much to build because we bought it like 6 years ago. And it was just sitting on the ground, and that does not do well for the whole thing. But it was just sitting on the ground, and I heard about it, and I called the governor, and I called a lot of people, your attorney general. And here's the story. They were going to buy it, and these are great business people. They were going to buy it for 5 cents on the dollar or less. And they were calling us up, we'll sell it to you for 200 cents on the dollar. In other words, it will cost you twice as much, so it's 200 cents on the dollar. I said, can somebody explain that to a judge? I mean, how corrupt is that? you'd think they'd say, maybe we'll sell it to you for 20 cents, 30 cents, but not 200 cents. So they were going to buy something for 5 cents, and they were going to sell it to us for a fortune. They were going to make it would be, they'd have it down that in Fortune magazine, they'd put it of the deal of the year, okay? You buy something like that. But it was so corrupt and so horrible. And when we told that to the administration, they didn't care. They just kept going forward. They couldn't care less. And they kept going forward. They knew that they were trying to sell it back to us. They would have sold it back to us. You would have ended up buying it. You would have paid probably 50, 60 cents, who knows. But they were going to use it for scrap metal, but then they made a much better deal. They could just buy it and sell it to us for 15, 20 times what they paid. 20 times, think of it, like 20 times what they paid. And we wouldn't let it happen. And the governor with his attorney general, Ken Paxton, they made a fantastic, they're a good lawyer. He's pushed around pretty good by people, right? I said, you got a great attorney general. They should leave him alone. He was with me. But Ken and the governor went to court, and a judge actually became incensed and actually called for an investigation. How could a thing like this happen? So he stopped it. So we're waiting to put that wall up. And now that you have a new president, that wall will go up so fast. The governor will complain, sir. This is Greg Abbott, sir. Please, the wall is going up too fast. Please don't do that. You know the story about winning. No, we're going to win too much. We're winning too much. Please, let's stop. People always love that one. We'll do this with the wall. Governor Abbott calls, sir, the wall is going up too fast. We can't take it. We just can't take it. No, I think you'll be very happy if the wall goes up too fast, right? But we'll get that done, and we'll work with you on that. But it was a great decision by a great Texas judge, right? And it was beautiful to watch. He stopped them right in their track. I mean, they were literally loading this stuff onto trucks. It was terrible. Honestly, it was terrible. And he wouldn't take it. So I'm so glad I mentioned that they have a really good governor in Texas. And I swear, I didn't know he was here. I swear to you, it sounds like a setup. I didn't know you would end. Did I get lucky? I said the right thing. Because there have been moments when I wasn't so happy with him, you know? But not too many, I can tell you that. So anyway, it's good to see you too, Governor. Great. But I just want to thank everybody. You've been incredible. I recognize so many of you. It's so crazy. But this has been a long journey. This was a journey that started in 2015, probably started 20 years before that. People used to say, you're going to run for president? You're going to run? And I always said, no, I don't want. And then one day I said, let's give it a shot. And what I talked about then was the border, too. I think it probably was the number one issue for me. Back in 2015, 2016, I talked about the border. And now I talked about the border, but this border is much worse. We fixed the border. It was totally fixed. There was nothing to talk about. 2020, by the way, that election was totally rigged, but that's okay. It was a rigged election. You know the only thing good about it? It showed how bad they are, showed how incompetent, and frankly, historically, this is a much bigger event. If that would have gone like it should have. The bad thing about it is some bad things happened, like a lot of people in our country that wouldn't be in our country right now. So, you know, that's the bad part. But I will say that it started in 2015, and right from the beginning, we went to the top. Day one, they announced Trump, and Trump went to number one and stayed there for the whole primary. And then we took on Hillary. She didn't look too happy today. We took on Hillary. A very nice person, but we took on Hillary and we defeated Hillary, and then we did much better the second time in 2020. You know, we got millions more votes. We got millions, like 10, 12 million more votes than we did the first time. No president has ever gotten that many more votes. I got like 9 million more than anybody else had ever gotten, and they said we lost. And because of that, I said to Melania, what do you think? And she said, you want to do this again? And had we lost, and had I thought we lost, I wouldn't do it again, because that's like the ultimate poll, right? But I knew how well we did, and this time we made it too big to rig. It was so big. They tried like hell in the butt. They tried to do it, and around 9:02, they gave up. Last time they did bad things, but this time they just said, You know, I don't know if you saw, Mr. Speaker, in Washington, they had placards. They were all set to march. They thought it'd be closer. A gentleman asked me, a very respected gentleman asked me yesterday, how come the polls were so wrong? They showed you winning, but not in a landslide. I said, because people that are true Trumpers are so angry at the whole polling system and at the writers, the fake news, that they don't want to talk to anybody. So when you call somebody from Trump, who are you voting for? They say, it's none of your business. I'm not telling you. And that was probably 40% of the people they called. So they would discard that one, and they didn't show that. And then when the election happened, you know, the vote came, and it was much different, much higher than, we're going to win, but they really thought, they couldn't believe, the one man said, I mean, it was so much higher. We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote by millions of votes, which is hard for a Republican. I'll tell you who came through. The unions came through. The auto workers were great. The Teamsters were great. The firemen were great. I think almost every union was great. The only one that weren't great, although Sean was great, and the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, the head of the Teamsters, was fantastic. But generally speaking, the head of the union was against Trump, but the union would be with us for like 85%. Look what we did with the auto workers in Michigan. Look what we did with the Teamsters. The Teamsters were unbelievable. They were a solid Democrat vote, and they voted for Trump. So we had a great experience. This has been, now we have to go to work and get it done, because we have to do something that's going to be great. We're going to turn our country around, and we're going to turn it around fast. And I think this was a better speech than the one I made upstairs, okay? I think this was better, JD. I think this was much better, and I got to see my friend. So, Governor, take care of yourself. You call me, we'll start working. You know what that means with him? He's going to be calling me tomorrow morning at about 6. And I said, how about next week? You call me, and we're going to get it started real fast. We'll really help you a lot. You've done a fantastic job protecting something which is, it's not supposed to be for the states. And amazing job you've done. Thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody. And I have a First Lady who's been incredible. She's been incredible. I shouldn't say this. I'm going to get hell when I say this, but her feet are absolutely aching. You know, those heels. And we thought we were leaving. We were going home. Sir, would you be able to go down and say hello to some of your other fans that are here? I said, oh, I didn't know that. Wow. Did you get to see pretty clearly the picture, I hope? Good. That's good. But because you wouldn't want to make the same speech again, right? But she said, darling, I love you so much, but my feet are killing me. I said, honey, let me just see how far it is. I asked the person. Oh, not that long, maybe 400 or 500 yards. That's 5 football fields. I said, can you make it? She said, we're going to make it no matter what. We're going to make it because we have to go. Right? Right? And then we went out to the helicopter, though, just prior to this, and said goodbye. And it's a custom, and the wind is blowing like crazy. And with the hat that she's wearing, she almost blew away. We almost lost off her. She was being elevated off the ground. She almost blew away. No. So we all appreciate it, because she's been a great First Lady. A beautiful and a great First Lady. And they love our First Lady. You know, JD, whenever I make a speech, I see hundreds of times, we love our First Lady, we love, and they do, and they should. She's great. So I just want to thank you very much. I just want to thank everybody. And I felt that, I said to JD, should we give him the A treatment, the B treatment, the C, the D, or the F? You know what the F is? Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye. I gave you the A+ treatment. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Governor. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
That is the president, number 47 now, officially in the Visitor Center, which is underneath the Capitol. Parts of it are underneath the Capitol, and that connects to the FISA courts, where nobody gets to go and see. as he is standing in front of the Native American that is on top of the Capitol. You see her, and this is shocking that they would remake this the way it actually is on the Capitol with the Native American headdress. It was originally supposed to be a liberty cap, a French liberty cap on top of the Native American, but the guy who cast it decided to change it at the last minute. He had it cast in the South and did not like liberty caps. It was a sign of a free slave, and the man who was in charge of casting that for the top of the Capitol Rotunda was Jefferson Davis. So I'm surprised that they didn't do it the original way and tell that story. The president there telling all kinds of story, kind of getting wrapped up in seeing the governor of Texas there, and some honest exchanges with the first lady, who I just think I have just so much profound respect for her. One of the guys who is with us is Steve Baker. And Stu, I'm going to turn this over to you in about 2 minutes as I go get ready to join the president and the entourage with on some other things this evening. But Steve is sitting here listening to him with bated breath, waiting. You'll notice Steve Baker, who is our investigative journalist, and also the guy who is officially waiting to be sentenced for his unbelievable role in January 6th. He's waiting to be sentenced or pardoned by the president tonight. But if he doesn't pardon the January 6th, then you have to be sentenced. But we know he's going to. But did you notice when he started talking about January 6th, he was very clear, and he said, you're going to like what you see.
Right.
So it is coming either tonight or tomorrow, it appears. But he referred to them as the January 6th hostages. Interesting.
Yeah, he's consistent with that. He continues to use that word, which is, look, I have been in an emotional set of chains for 4 years now.
I know.
And I am ready to have that lifted off of me, that weight, that burden lifted off of me. And it hasn't happened yet. I keep looking up at the screen and wanting to see him sitting behind a desk with a pen in his hand right now.
He may do it at the Capitol Center.
That would be phenomenal if he did.
He's Stu, you know more about this, but he is looking to possibly sign some of these executive orders in an omnibus sort of bill at the Capitol Center.
Yeah, there was some talk that he might go in front of the entire, 25,000 seat crowd and just sit down and just start signing executive orders in front of the crowd, which would be very consistent with who he is. And the way
it would actually be great. I'd love to see that.
It would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it would also be consistent with the movement, I think. They always say that he always makes this stuff about him, and he does talk about him and past transgressions against him and everything. But he's very consistent about the movement, and that it's
even there. He was talking about him, but what we accomplished. It was never I. It was we accomplished. He's very focused on. And the farther you get away from power, I think the more time he spends with. He is very conscious of the people who put him in that position. I'm gonna leave and sign off. The Blaze TV coverage of the events of today of Washington continues. Stu's going to take over. I will see you online tonight and then tomorrow on radio as we continue to not only cover the rest of the events of the day, but also I know, Steve, you are waiting with bated breath to see.
And if you see him tonight, if you do get to speak to the president.
I will. If he hasn't done anything,
if you lean over in his ear and say, Steve Baker, text me, please.
I will. But Stu, thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Glenn.
All right.
Big day in America, and a lot to go to. Should we go to the footage here for a second? We can get all kind of adjusted and listen to what's going on in the Capitol Center.
What do you want them to do at the Justice Department and FBI? Clean that place up? What do you think? You see, Fauci got pardoned today? Yeah, well, as many of you know, they sent me to prison for 4 months for defending the Constitution. And I can tell you, with all honesty, I never met anybody in prison who did as bad stuff as those people. Fauci, Merrick Garland, Alvin Bragg. Time for a little accountability, perhaps. And lastly, I'm going to be a small part of the big trade and manufacturing team. You're going to see new folks, shining stars, like Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, Scott Bessent, the Treasury. These men are giants in the world, and they're going to be with veterans like Jamison Greer and Kevin Hassett. And we, with Donald Trump as our commander-in-chief, are going to protect you from the unfair trade that ravages this country, steals our jobs, steals our factories. Are you ready? Are you ready? All right, I got one thing left on my bucket list here. Maybe you can help me out. I'm taking a risk here trying this. But I've gone to so many rallies and watched the boss, and I've always wanted to feel what it was like to be on stage as him when the crowd went absolutely wild. So why don't you warm yourselves up, get ready for the boss, and let me hear you say what you're gonna do for Donald Trump. Come on, come on. Come on, baby! Come on, baby! Come on! All right, you are officially warmed up. I'm Peter Navarro. I am happy to be with you. You, the deplorables, we love you.
There is Peter Navarro in the Capitol Center. You can just keep this up in the background. You don't have to dump it all. Wouldn't mind it having it in the background. Interesting thing. He did kind of that's what I want to do is just like go up and like, hey, clap for me like you're clapping for another guy, and then you feel that like that's the way to do it. It's kind of a little Jeb Bushian. I like the approach. It's fun.
Yeah.
Steve Baker is here. He is of course our reporter. He's been covering everything that's gone on with January 6th, among many other important issues, and is in the middle of a situation where he may wind up getting a presidential pardon today, maybe tomorrow, maybe never. Steve, we really hope it does happen though.
I've never been in a position in my life where I needed a pardon. I may have said to somebody, pardon me,
Mm-hmm.
but that's it. This is a little bit bigger than that.
It is a tad bigger, and you do need a pardon because of the absurdity that has happened with you. I want to, and we're going to watch this and see how it happens over the next 24 hours. I really do hope it happens quickly so you can get this off. Because as you pointed out earlier, you've been dealing with this for multiple years now. It's been hanging over your head for years. Before we get to that, though, can you talk to me about the other pardons on the outgoing side here? Because this has been Joe Biden came out. We've been doing this series of shows called Biden's Parting Shots, and Biden has not let these last few days go to waste.
Parting shots or pardon shots.
Yes.
Pardon shots. But yeah, it's been pretty interesting today, especially. I mean, when your last signature is to pardon your own crime family syndicate, that's pretty significant.
Incredible.
It's amazing that he did that. Well, it's amazing he waited that long. And then it was kind of the ultimate, middle finger, to the country.
Totally.
Is what that was. But then the ones that just prior to that preceded that one, were obviously those related to January 6th, which again comes back to, an area of interest I have. But when you start pardoning all of the January 6th Select Committee members, Cheney, down the line, Benny Thompson, and then
their staffs, her entire staff.
Mm-hmm. So what number of people is that? And then additionally, what did you think that you needed to cover them for? Was this just to make a statement that the new president, Trump, 47, is now going to be enacting his promise of retribution against them, or are there crimes to actually be concerned about? Because he also extended pardons to the police officers, both Metropolitan Police Department and United States Capitol Police, who testified before the January 6th committee. Now, between earlier when we were on with Glenn and we talked about that, and subsequent to that, I've actually read the pardon now.
Okay.
And the language is actually very specific. I don't think that he pardoned Officer Harry Dunn from trial perjuries. It was very specific that it was related to the activities of the January 6th Select Committee. And of course, Dunn did make a under oath televised speech or in an interview before the committee in which he did tell lies during that
which you've covered extensively
Absolutely.
and proven on video.
Yeah, absolutely. And then he has his trial perjuries, which are even more extensive, more damning, but the language to me doesn't look like he's off the hook there.
And the way he's writing these pardons, I don't know that any of them stand up. I mean, things like, Anthony Fauci has been pardoned for all crimes that he may have committed since January 1st, 2014. What does that even, completely absurd. It's Hunter Biden style. I don't know that holds up. But as you say, like, the staff members, don't they need to be named individually? It's like anyone on the staff. What if one of these staff members 8 years ago was involved in, embezzling something? How can this be this broad? I think this power is really broad, and I don't like the pardon power generally.
Well, the pardon power is too broad. It's too broad, and that's one of the points that Dershowitz made, just before the Christmas break on Glenn's show, was that it's all-encompassing, and it's the one remaining kingly power that the founders gave to the presidency, and that if he says it, it's law, and so it can be pretty broad. I think Joe Biden could have pardoned himself even. And that's a questionable one. Right.
But at least he'd have to pardon himself for something. You can't just say hey, this period of time, crime free. This isn't the purge.
Right. Yeah, and if he has that power, can he pardon someone into the future? That hasn't been tested yet either.
Well, he did it with Hunter Biden.
Well, he pardoned Hunter in 10 years in the past.
But he said until midnight of the day he pardoned. So he had 8 hours to commit some more crimes. That's all I would have done, man. I would have been out there committing crimes all day.
Yeah, but is that that's what needs to be reviewed? Maybe there needs to be a committee put together to review that for a possible amendment to the Constitution.
After you, though.
To narrow that.
After he pardons you.
Yes. Yeah.
Steve needs to get his pardon first.
I need this before March the 6th, Mr. President.
That's right, because this is the next day that would be important to your
I actually have tomorrow morning scheduled at 10 o'clock a pre-sentencing interview with the Federal Probation Office. And I instructed my attorney 2 nights ago to tell him to take a flying, off of a, I'm not going to be there.
It's so weird they don't seem to like you that much, Steve. I don't understand it.
No.
Yeah. But so you really would like this to happen today. This would be the best thing.
Yeah, I need it to happen today. And besides, I bought a very nice champain. It's sitting in my backpack right now on the other side of this wall.
Steve's getting hammered. This is coming down, right? Well-deserved many, many bottles of alcohol should be poured down. Because, this has been ridiculous. And we covered it. I don't want to bore people with the details yet again, but every single minute that you were in the Capitol, you are on video, you are reporting.
Right.
You're not even chanting. You're not even showing support for the people around you. You are literally documenting events and texting.
That's right.
That's it. So it's absurd. And you might say, well, you're not allowed to go into that building. How many other reporters were in that building with you that day?
We have a spreadsheet with over 80 names.
80
identified journalists, media figures, podcasters, bloggers, social media influencers, all deemed by the Department of Justice as the new media. And none of them were charged with crimes.
None of them.
And so one of the things that we were demanding in discovery in the lead up to my potential trial was we were demanding in discovery the investigations into those and why charges were not pursued in that, because we were building a selective prosecution case. The government obviously opposed it, and then the judge denied it. Basically, the judge says, we're not going to allow you to present your defense in the manner in which you want to present your defense. And that was the day after the election, by the way, when he denied that. And that's when I looked at my attorneys and said, kill it all. I'm not doing this. If they're not going to allow me to defend myself, and they're going to bring me in just for the shaming process,
yes,
then let's get it over with.
Yeah.
And so that was the route we chose, and I rolled the dice for what we hope is going to happen today.
Yes, we will see if they come up Trump today.
Right.
All right, Steve, I know you have to get going. Thanks so much for hanging out.
Thanks,
and
dude.
good luck today, man. I really hope this comes down
Thank you.
for you.
Means a lot.
Whether I'm around you or not, I will pour one down in your honor.
Let's do it.
Because it's been a ridiculous ride for you, and I can't wait for this to be over.
I'll be at CPI when they start pouring at 5 o'clock.
Okay, I bet so. It's 5
All
o'clock
right.
somewhere, Steve. It
All
always
right.
is. It always is. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we are here for live coverage of what's going on here in Washington, D.C. It was interesting, the order of events here. You have the sort of upstairs speech, then you have the downstairs speech, and then you have the arena speech. That is what we are waiting for next. We assume Donald Trump's on his way over there. We have some events going on at the Capitol now. There's tens of thousands of people here. This is a big deal, and a lot of these people are people who kind of planned on being outside to take in the inauguration in the sort of traditional sense, the way it normally would go. Obviously, they moved it inside, reportedly because of the cold weather. Though I hear, and I'm not a global warming expert, so I'm not sure, but I hear that it's typically relatively cold this time of year in Washington D.C. So that there's definitely some worries about security. They're sort of denying that, but whatever the reason was, I'm kind of glad it was inside, honestly. Because it's the type of thing that it's almost impossible to secure an event like that. We still have the situation coming on where Trump will maybe outside at times, and security is a major concern around the city. I mean, it's bizarre. I told the story earlier on the radio. It's like we came in on the Acela train to D.C. yesterday from Philly, where the Philadelphia Eagles defeated the Los Angeles Rams and are headed to the NFC Championship game. And I was on the train with Al Sharpton and Marianne Williamson, which was very, very strange. They weren't talking to each other. I thought they'd be hanging out. Matt Peterson, Chris Bedford here. Don't you think, Matt, they'd be hanging out? Like maybe they talking about stuff? They didn't seem to be discussing anything at all. She was just on her phone the whole time.
I would probably subscribe for a small fee to listen to that conversation, but
I made sure to put my headphones in because I didn't want to seem like I was trying to listen in. It just feels creepy. Those Acela trains are weird, and this city is weird, Matt. I mean, you're a veteran of this city, but it's
a veteran visitor.
It's crazy. You're just walking around. Jill Savage today. Just posted a picture of she went to Starbucks and just John Fetterman sitting in there, the lectern guy from January 6th just sitting in there. It's just weird.
Oh yeah, I remember one time we had a banger of a day, and meeting all these crazy people, and some of it was serious, some of it wasn't, and then we're sitting down, and in comes what's his name from Fox with the mustache, it should be insured.
Yeah,
it is insured.
It is.
when you are in a place like this at a time like this, though, I mean, everyone's here, and it's been incredible just to feel that energy in a positive way that I think was very not weird this entire weekend so far.
Yeah, Chris, this is it's a strange place. I mean,
I've been here for 20 years, 20 long years. I used to have a red beard. You know that?
Really?
It's white now.
It is. Yeah.
When my daughter was just born a ginger, my wife was like, "Where did this come from?" I was like, "Your husband's a ginger." Or at least he used to be.
All right, we're getting a word that there's some ceremony taking place. Let's go to the footage here.
Those other governors must be really old. No offense to my colleagues. Whether you think I'm too young or you think they're too old, Republican governors have been holding the line while we waited on Donald Trump to get back to the White House.
Going through signing
And
statement after
ladies
signing
and
statement
gentlemen,
after signing
the
statement.
wait is over. We now have a fighter back at
This is
1600
incredible.
Pennsylvania Avenue, and I could not be more excited.
I mean, so how many is that? 4, 5 that he's done so far?
The reason
We're just saying
I'm
before
so
we came in here,
excited
what is he just going
to
to go
see
through and
Donald
sign
Trump
all this?
back in
That's
the
all
White
we want
House.
to see now.
Yeah.
is
Now he's
because
doing it.
I know he's a
Yeah,
president.
this is so different than
absolutely loves
2017,
America.
where he came in. You mentioned
even
earlier we were
an
talking about
assassin's
you
bullet
guys were talking
could
about the
keep
American
him down
Carnage
and
speech
stop
that
him from
2017. It was a different
continuing to
vibe.
fight
It was
for
more
each
about
one of
warning where we were and what was going on. This is a much more positive and clearly much more efficient process. He has a plan. He has people around him that know how to execute the plan this time. It is a different world.
You know, with the executive orders, too, his understanding of it is going to be completely different. When he first came to office, he looked at it like he was a CEO with loyal lieutenants. If he says do something, it happens. But an executive order without the backing of your secretaries is basically just a glorified press release.
Yes.
You could say, Mattis, get rid of woke of the military, and he'll say, okay. But he didn't. And Trump didn't do the follow-up. So now this time he's actually got the nominees in place and the people in place and the infrastructure, the intellectual infrastructure, legal infrastructure, a lot of it right where we're filming from, to actually take those executive orders, put them into action, be prepared for the lawsuits and the torrential downpour of lawsuits that are going to be coming at him, funded by NGOs and taxpayers, unfortunately. And it's going to be a battle, and he understands that, and it's going to be a very different way that we see this play out.
It's an important point because to craft these even is an art, right? I mean, like exactly what we're saying. You have to say the right magic words and understand how people won't do what you say, and you're trying to get in there. You know, you're trying to poke in there in legal language to make sure that the will of the president is actually accomplished.
Yeah, and I don't know that all these are going to work, honestly. Like, I mean, his attempt to overturn the 14th Amendment, part of the citizenship part of that, I don't know if that's going to hold up in court. I mean, there's been a long-term conservative argument for that fact. There's a Supreme Court that is conservative. It might hold up. But he's going to have a battle on some of these. This is not going to be an easy process. It's not just signing these things and it's done.
Well, that one in particular, I'm okay with because he has taken an oath to the Constitution. The president's interpretation of the Constitution does matter and does count, and he should act on it. And if we can have a debate over that in the courts, et cetera, great, bring it on. You know, let's do that.
And remember, well, here's one that's going to be difficult. When he's talking about trying to change the military, in his first term, he tweeted out, "I just had a conversation with all these fantastic generals. We're going to have no more transgender in the military." He tweeted it.
Yeah.
Well, nothing happened.
Right.
And Obama had done this in his last days in office. So essentially what's happened since then is there's been 8 years of this policy being in place in the Department of Defense. Now you've got a whole lot of people who can sue. You've got a whole lot of people who can push back on that. Some of these battles will be harder fought because things that Barack Obama did that weren't undone because his administration wasn't always working for him will now be 8 years of having been in action. It's going to be a difficult time.
What do you think about this? Because obviously 2020, none of us like the results of that election. However, looking now in retrospect, I think when you're in the middle of a job like this, that's so big and so intense all the time, it is sometimes difficult to step back and get perspective as to what's going on and how to fix it, right? You're in the middle of it every day. You're dealing with the next event. People are coming in and saying, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. With this, like these 4 years, I wouldn't have wanted the 4 years of Biden by any means, but it almost gave him 4 years to sit back and say, okay, this is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to do it this time. Here are all the people I need. In some way, this break, I think, has strengthened his second term.
It's huge. It's made it. Remember, when he came into office, what did he have to look to for resources? AEI, it certainly wasn't aligned, still isn't. Cato Institute. I mean, Senator DeMint was doing what he could at the Heritage Foundation, but he was obviously outnumbered, was ousted after a number of great successes. Now there's 4 years of talent incubation. There are people who you don't just have to go through their Twitter feeds to find out if they're actually loyal to Donald Trump. You can look at what they've done, the papers they put out, the policies that they've come through. It kind of reminds me, I take this as I'm not saying this is Donald Trump's a biblical figure, but you see so many times in the Bible where God takes someone who's powerful and he removes them and he makes them weak and then he uses them after that. He didn't use Moses as a powerful figure in the Egyptian government. He sent him out and said, you go out into the desert, you got old, you're no longer a young, powerful person, you come back and then you work for me. That's how he so often uses people. And this story just kind of brings that to mind with someone who's been brought out, laid low, nearly shot, brought to Jesus. He's now posting Ave Maria on his Instagram feed, and he's coming back with a team that is loyal, ready to go, with institutions all across the city.
Yeah, if I could just back that up quick. I mean, I think the purification in the wilderness is a theme of leadership from time immemorial, exactly. But also think about the straining mechanism of the last few years when it comes to loyalty and who really is part of the agenda. Right, the agenda itself was framed, it was formed during this time in the wilderness. And with all that persecution, if you were for Trump, you really were for Trump, right? I mean, 2 years ago, if you were standing up for Trump, you really must be part of that agenda. So that weeded out a ton of these people, the fakers, really, who were there the first time.
Matt, you kind of were really involved in the, I don't know, the farm system, right? To bring a lot of these people up to these levels that are now going in. I mean, you were in that think tank world. You were at Claremont. You talked to young people who were interested in this movement. You helped work them through. How does that happen? Walk us through that process a little bit.
I mean, I think the amazing thing that has happened may be unique in American history. I don't know how it worked before. I just kind of jumped into it in the midst of a crazy time. But you had a lot of people who, if they were attracted to Claremont in this case, they, I think, had some understanding before they came to us of what this agenda was, which meant they had some understanding of kind of what's wrong with the world now. So there are people who are really attracted to do something for their country. They're all, right-leaning Americans, but they saw something seriously wrong with the Republican Party and the way that things had been going. They understood there was something wrong with the, quote-unquote establishment, but they weren't giving up, right? They wanted to change their party. They wanted to change the system, and they were serious people, right? And I'm just privileged to have been around so many of them, Chris being one of them at the more senior level. These are people who they saw the problem. They wanted to have a chance to band together and do something about it, and that is what they did. They didn't care about what the rest of Washington thought of Trump. And that the most amazing thing you've seen is these people have risen very quickly to leadership in an accelerated way, and that is the thing I'm most excited about in this new administration.
Angelo Codevilla foretold MAGA in his 2010 essay about the uprising against the elites. People thought he was talking about the Tea Party, but he was talking about something far deeper that we've now seen.
I mean, it's such a fascinating time. I mean, think about just 4 years ago. We can go back even farther, but 4 years ago today, we were on the heels of January 6th. The president was not attending the inauguration. In fact, almost nobody was attending the inauguration, and the people who were sitting down with masks on outside. That was 4 years ago. I was looking at the footage this morning just to get a sense of it. There is nobody there. And, the people who are on stage are in masks. We are basically in the middle of a shutdown, one that would be extended for a very long time by Joe Biden and his allies. Mm-hmm. I mean, what? And we're at a time, too, we should point out that there's a lot of Republicans who are just done with Donald Trump 4 years ago. How does it? This is absolutely the biggest political comeback of all time. How does this happen, Chris?
It was incredible, and there's still a lot of Republicans who are against Donald Trump. It's called the U.S. Senate, and it's going to be something he has to work closely with J.D. Vance to kind of bring into line. Mitch McConnell is not changing his tune. No. It's going to be interesting to see how he plays with the confirmations. But part of that, I think, is COVID, and it's interesting. I've got a piece up now on the Blaze that mentions COVID as a very painful lesson, but a blessing in some ways, whether you talk about the parents who are suddenly at home with their children, overhearing what the teachers were saying in classrooms, or you saw the parents getting arrested when they were asking questions about what was going on and the attacks on their children not too far from here in Loudoun County, whether you saw the people who realized, all the administrators and the scientists and everyone else who we trusted. We realized that the systems were actually broken, that there were deep problems with our rights, deep problems in sometimes our law enforcement, the inability to actually protect us. And there was a lot of trust the Americans had that the systems that they had built up over the centuries would continue and would serve them. And we learned a hard lesson. And I know that we're a merciful people. A lot of folks do not have the appetite to go back and punish the actual humans who did this to us. The disease didn't do it to us. Mm-hmm. Systems and humans that run them did this to us. But we can at least learn from that, make sure it never happens again, and be able to confront problems in a way that, there's no way that RFK would be up for a cabinet post were it not for the serious problems that were exposed in America and that hopefully can be fixed.
Yeah, it's going to be quite an adventure over the next few years. Do we have? Can we go back to the Capitol, the arena here? Is that? Yeah, I thought it's Donald's, right?
And as I was
sitting in the Capitol, let's listen to a little bit of what Donald has to say.
I was watching Donald Trump give the best speech ever at a presidential inauguration. It reminded me to another great speech. And Pastor Sewell in his benediction, I got to have a talking with him because he was phenomenal. But what it said to me is that in our country, there are no perfect men. There are no perfect women. There are people who were used at a point in time in this country to put this country in position to be better than it was before. And so that's why in the Capitol Rotunda, when President Trump talked about that bullet that went through his ear, and that he is here at this time because God has placed him here at this time to make sure that the golden era of America comes through right now. So yes, we are gonna make sure that we get your prices under control and we have a great economy. Yes, we're gonna get out of stupid wars and dumb conflicts, and we're gonna have peace through strength. Yes, our soldiers are gonna be focused on their core mission, and that is to kill the enemy and to come home. Yes, we're gonna have the largest repatriation force of illegal immigrants in the history of this country, because the only way you come to America is legally, following the law. All of those promises and more, they're gonna be kept starting today at that very desk over there. And I got a special message, and this is for states like California and New York and Illinois. If you want to continue to have a dumpster fire form of government, if you want to continue to mislead your people thinking that your radical policies are the way forward, people like myself in the great state of Florida and Tennessee and Texas and the administration of Donald J. Trump, we are going to show you what true governance is. We are going to show you what true leadership is. And we are going to show the people in your states that they don't have to live with Gavin Newsom. They can have a Republican again in the state of California. And the last thing, because I don't want this to be about red states versus blue states. We are Americans. And the thing that will unify us is the success of our nation. When a young kid can grow up in the inner city and make something of himself, that is success. When a mom can dream about her children and they achieve something wonderful in America, that is success. When an immigrant from another country comes through the right way, and they actually build something and they add to what America truly is, that is success. When we unify our efforts and we can disagree, but still keep the most perfect union ever known going, that is success. Those are the common sense ideals of America. That is the leadership that Donald Trump is gonna bring. And I don't care if you're in California or Florida, that is gonna be the guiding principles of the United States of America. So buckle up, everybody, because we're going to be unified. We're going to get the job done. And I don't know about you, I'm kind of sick of speeches. On Capitol Hill, a few blocks from here, we are going to get the job done, or people will be moved out of the way. God bless you guys. God bless America. God bless Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and their families. God bless you.
All right, Byron Donalds there, a rising star on the right now. He was talked about for VP, consideration at the time, and now is being talked about as potential gubernatorial candidate in Florida, along with approximately about half the state of Florida right now is throwing his hand in the ring for that. Donalds is one of these guys that really gets the crowd going. Trump seems to really like him, and they've had a decent, long relationship. We're watching the events in the Capitol, this arena. Also in the bottom corner, you got the rotunda. It's hard to know exactly when this is going on. Charlie Kirk is about to step up here and speak as well. Give me your impression. Like, are we right now, Chris? Are we at the peak of Donald Trump's powers? Like, is this a position he's ever been in before?
Yes, so much so that there's not even the opposition that you would expect yet. Although I would expect that to certainly start growing, especially once you start with deportations and other parts of his agenda. But Trump has had an interesting journey from someone who is dismissed by world leaders, dismissed by American leaders, dismissed by the media throughout his entire first term as a Russian agent or a clown or someone who couldn't be taken seriously. This Donald Trump we see now, it has more credibility than he has ever had. And I think a large part of that is the things that he talked about, and he unfortunately made a lot of his 2020 campaign about. All of the attacks on him, the undermining of him, have come to pass. I mean, before he ran for office, he used to have Thanksgiving fights with family. Is the media biased? That's obviously gone. After he was inaugurated, people would say, do you really believe there's a deep state? Like, you were a conspiracy theorist. Well, that is obvious. It's not even contested anymore. They're issuing pardons for them today. That's basically a list of the deep state top agents.
Amazing.
The prosecutions, America saw it play out in real time. And they saw the man who they were told was a billionaire who didn't care about them, who was a coward at heart, get shot in the head on TV, rise up, raise his fist, and look around to see if people were okay. This is... The next day, I was in Ocean City, Maryland, which is a wonderful place for a garbage time. And half of the T-shirts for sale were the Trump fist pump T-shirts. It has entered popular culture. He has entertainers on his side. 50 Cent saying, I want to perform at the convention. All of this has come together and made him just a figure who is so different and has transcended the early showman that he was kind of dismissed as. And his power right now is hopefully going to be used well. I think so, and it's at its peak.
Yeah. That event in Pennsylvania, it was such an amazing moment, and it's such a terrible moment to start, of course, and then turned into such an incredible one. I was looking at the timeline of those events, of that section of the campaign, which is one of the most remarkable things any of us will ever live through. It started on June 27th, 2024, which was the first debate, and Biden botches the debate. But what we kind of forget is he hung on there. He was still hanging on for about 2.5 weeks. Yeah. And it looked like he may very well come through it until that assassination attempt occurred. That was July 13th, 2024. And then 8 days later, he dropped out of the race and Kamala Harris was put in. I mean, you think about that timeline, it's really legitimately incredible. I don't know. I mean, my instinct is that Trump was winning it either way, even without the assassination attempt, especially if Joe Biden was his opponent. But I mean, that change, we're looked at a massive change in American history, Matt.
Yeah, I think to pick up on what Chris was saying, at first, what Trump did is revealed to anyone who had eyes to see how corrupt the system was. And so everything that occurred, during and around him, is sort of like this magic, stone you could just hold up to everything and you can see through it, right? You say, wait, really? Is the Department of Justice really that corrupt, right? What happened on that day is Trump himself, like something about his soul was revealed, something that can't be faked. And I think that changed everything because you saw what he did in that moment. And within a few minutes, people like Elon Musk are saying, I support Donald Trump for president.
And that, again, changed American history. Who knows? I keep coming back to this because he won all 7 swing states. We look at this and like, oh gosh, he nailed it. He won. He's like, he had to win one of those blue wall states. The biggest blowout of those blue wall states was 2 points. Like, that's how close we were to having her. And I think that difference, it's hard to imagine that the assassination attempt and that response, to have the presence of mind, and more than that, really just like, that's just in him. Like, that was just a normal response. That's just who the dude is. That had to have moved enough people, I think, to change the outcome of the election. I mean, I don't know. That's the way, when you really look and you dive into it and you think about, without that event, what would have happened? Who knows? It may have been him versus Biden. It may have been him versus Harris and an even closer election and maybe even a loss. That's incredible to think about. I mean, we could all be anywhere else but Washington, D.C., watching on television as Kamala Harris was sworn in. Where would our country be going today, Chris?
I could tell you what, the performances would be absolutely atrocious. Give me YMCA for all its strangeness any days over some of the music that we heard played at her rallies or the absolute show. And also, I mean, we're about to celebrate a major anniversary in the United States. Can you imagine what that would have looked like if not for Donald Trump being president of the United States? It would have been a whole list about how the railroads were actually built by the Eskimos and this and that. It would have never ended, and there would have been no place for actual Western civilization. But it's back, and it's not just back. Like we were talking about earlier in the program, it's back with a massive roster of support across all sectors, which of course does have its own dangers because, well, Donald Trump has created a great big tent in the Republican Party for a lot of different people. As we saw in the Twitter fights with Elon Musk and a lot of the more MAGA supporters, not everyone actually agrees on what this agenda is going to look like. And Donald Trump has changed himself from someone who is just where you can paint your grievances onto something into something where you can paint all of your different policy ideas and prescriptions for how to fix the United States onto him. The problem is some of those policies go against each other.
Yeah, and there's no doubt about that. But what makes that possible, and we should talk about that more in a minute, what makes that possible is the fact that we are living in an entirely different universe, an entirely different frontier. The whole landscape is completely changed. And those people, instead of us having to hear those awful things today, they had to sit in that little room and listen to prayer, music, and Donald Trump winning it all. And so the bottom line is, I mean, 2 points, yes, it's right. On the edge of a knife many times. Looked like this was impossible many times over the last few years. Mm-hmm. It was not necessary. It was not inevitable. The history books will almost write it as such. Yep. And that's was the overwhelming emotion that I felt today watching this happen. But now that it has happened, the arguments that will occur, and they're going to be out of control over the next 6 months, are because a new coalition has arisen. And that coalition is big, and there actually will be a lot of different disagreement. People will be purity spiraling in all directions and saying, no, we should do this, no, we should do that. But it's all to the good. And today we can celebrate how it's all to the good because we're just in a completely new era.
And it's global, too. It's across the West, and it's something that the elites ignored for a long time. Brexit happened the same year that Donald Trump was elected. There were rumblings all across the West of people being angry at these folks who had taken the post-war liberal order, and they'd used the peace and prosperity it had for adventurism, for democracy and gay rights promotion across the world, for outsourcing, for free trade. They'd use it for things that didn't always actually help the interests of their people. And over the following 8 years, you saw farmers rising up in Europe. You saw the Tory government fall in England. And who here would have guessed that within the 5 weeks that Donald Trump was inaugurated the second time as 47th president of the United States, you would have the Canadian government collapse. You'd have the collapse of the German government, the collapse of the French government, all of these, the collapse of the Tories just over the summer because they failed on their promises to the British people. All of these different liberal governments that have lied to us for so long are collapsing. And I hope this is the beginning of a golden age in America like Donald Trump promised, but it's unclear who's actually going to take it forward from here. There's a lot of different people who can benefit from this. A lot of conservatives, especially in Europe and the West, are fractured and against each other, not always on the same side of things. But it's definitely, regardless of what's the beginning, it is the end of that world order.
Let's talk about the culture a little bit and how that's changing. I mean, we were sold the cultural importance of brat summer for the past 6 months.
I had to learn about that.
Yes.
Wow, it feels so long ago.
Doesn't it?
Really,
it really does
feel far, far away.
Yeah, I mean, you think about those rallies with Beyonce and all these figures coming out. And like, I don't know, man. I'm looking at Carrie Underwood singing a cappella, and that's America to me. You look at Melania, right? Mm. I mean, I know we've all heard about Michelle Obama's arms and how miraculous they are, but Donald Trump has been able to achieve something that nobody has before. We've had a lot of policy victories. I think sometimes we get a little too negative about what the conservative movement has accomplished. Some of it's been really, really positive. I mean, look at the Second Amendment. There's been a massive improvement in some of these areas. But culturally, there's just been no breakthrough, right? It's been really bad, religious movies made for TV. It's been God bless him, love him, Lee Greenwood over and over and over and over again.
And over and over.
And it's still, the song he was singing at our Rally for America in 2004, I believe he's still playing it somewhere. And I love the guy. It's a great part of history, but it never felt cool. Donald Trump was cool back in the day. Everybody loved him, right? He was the cool guy. He was in all these rap songs. He was in everything. And then he became a Republican president, and that all evaporated. He's been able to bring it back. It's like, I don't think I've ever seen anyone do it.
I mean, this is a great point. It needs to be asserted because that too much of the right is just way too insecure when it comes to this stuff. One of the richest men in the world, like Elon Musk, is fanboying, right? Like, oh my gosh, yes. I mean, just like, yes, we're going to Mars, baby, right in the middle of this speech. Yeah. Michelle Obama, to your point, is nowhere to be seen. Mm-hmm. I'll leave it at that. She's not there at all. And Melania is there silently and impressively in spades. I mean, she was present by virtue of how she looked. So I don't think this is a joke. I don't think this is an exaggeration. When you want to talk about low rent, sort of disgusting culture, that's increasingly what the other side represents. What's moving forward, what's interesting.
And remember, Melania in the first inauguration went full Jackie O, and she was pilloried for it. This time she came out like she was dressed to settle all family business. This was a different kind of darker version of Melania, and I absolutely loved it. And the designers that made the custom clothes for her and the gowns for the second lady are bragging about it.
They're admitting it, yes.
And the best comedians out there aren't Jimmy Kimmel. It's Bill Burr and Shane Gillis and Dave Chappelle, who maybe not lockstep Republicans, but certainly critiquing and making fun of the liberals. The cool side has moved on the right from just the meme wars out into broader culture, comedy, fashion. And that's a great sign.
Mrs. Corleone. That was very.
It was. That was badass. One last thing before we leave. And I hope you guys have seen this. I don't know that you have. Jeff Bezos's fiance is attending this event with what appears to be a jacket and a bra. Like it seems to be
a very expensive bra.
I'm sure it was very expensive, pricey. And there is a moment she's sitting next to Mark Zuckerberg, and Zuckerberg's looking, and then he's looking down, and then he goes right back up. He does the thing that you're not supposed to do. He steals the glance. He's caught on camera. The worst possible thing he can do. And I'd watched Bill Simmons, the podcaster. He was at a WWE event recently. And there's one of the I don't know the wrestling world all that well, but like some attractive woman dancing in front of him, and he is lockstepped in the opposite direction. He knows 100% if that camera catches him glance over, he's in big trouble. Just the approach, Zuckerberg, he needs to get with Simmons. There needs to be a class told to Mark Zuckerberg of what not to do in that situation. I hope he learns from this.
But we've seen such a great evolution with him, from just beta Democrat simp boy to MAGA Chad checking out Bezos' wife with the gold chain. Has a whole different feeling. I love it.
It's kind of endearing. Anyway. He needs to evolve to the next level of discipline for sure. But this is a guy who started out creating Facebook in his bedroom. I mean, I'm happy to see his evolution. I mean, look, what we're not talking about is Bill Clinton looking over there, which I'm sure he was, but he's in the background and old and decrepit, and instead we're talking about some of the most successful tech founders in America being present and hanging out, and we can all joke about it.
Like captured chieftains forced to watch the coronation. It's wonderful.
Someone tweeted, oh, look, Mark Zuckerberg has finally hit puberty. And I thought that was adorable. That's a great way to
end. I give him the benefit of a doubt like Chris. I feel like, oh, he's okay. Okay. Now we're going to learn to control our eyes. But, first step.
It's a conversation you have with your 12-year-old, and now we can have it with Mark. All right, guys, thanks so much. This is a big day, a big weekend. What do you guys have tonight? You going to any of the events? What's going on?
We have this show to do. Have you heard of it? It's called
Blaze
something news? About news tonight.
Tonight, I think. It's available on BlazeTV.
Yes. We're going to be doing that. And then I think I'm going to have an adult beverage this evening.
And maybe a cigar. It's a great day in America.
A lot of celebration. I know. A lot of celebration in this city. If you happen to be a bar, you're raking it in. So check out Blaze News Tonight. Don't miss it. It's on, of course, every night. You can watch it as part of your Blaze TV subscription. If you go to blaze47.com and use the code 47 to celebrate today's events, you're going to get $47 off your subscription. That's the biggest discount I think we've ever done, right? So this is a big deal. Get in on it today so you don't miss out. If you've been thinking about watching Blaze TV, if you might be a little skeptical as to the quality of the coverage of this incoming Trump administration from some of the other options you have to watch news. If you think CNN might not be so fair. For example, he was just signing a bunch of statements. There is a legitimate, supposedly, signing desk on the floor of the arena, where he may be signing more of them. If you don't think the coverage of those executive policies are going to be fair and accurate. You might want to join Blaze TV so you can actually hear what the heck is going on. Again, it's blaze47.com. I don't know if this is going on past today, so get involved. Blaze47.com. The code is 47, $47 off, about the biggest discount I think we've ever given. So get involved with that today. We'll have more coverage coming up tonight. All the shows are going to be talking about it. So join us, please. Blaze47.com, code 47, $47 off. Blaze News Tonight, of course, part of that package. Guys, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
All right, we will have more coverage as we go on with Blaze as we go on through the evening. And we'll be back in Texas in a couple days, and there'll probably be some adult beverages going on tonight. We will see you soon, and we'll be back here tomorrow.